Chapter 3084. Yes. Ning Yuan lowered his eyes slightly and said, "The women in the East Palace who should be evacuated have been evacuated, and the servants who are capable of becoming maids have been asked to stay. But there are still 2 women outside the hall who refuse to leave." "Who?" "Miss Guiying and Miss Song Tan," Ning Yuan explained. "In fact, Miss Song Tan should have left early, but Miss Guiying wanted to see the crown princess, so she accompanied her." Murong Si glanced at Luo Qingchen and raised his eyebrows slightly. "Let's not pursue this matter. Let the 2 of them in." Luo Qingchen's clear eyes flashed with a touch of sadness. "Let them in after a quarter of an hour." Ning Yuan showed a puzzled expression, but Murong Si just nodded and said, "Do as the crown princess says." Although the banquet was over and there was no formal conferring ceremony, in Murong Si's heart, Luo Qingchen was his crown princess, the only crown princess. In this quarter of an hour, Luo Qingchen asked Murong Si one last question, then wrote a letter and put in the envelope. Then she nodded to Ning Yuan, and Guiying and Song Tan walked in behind the maids. As soon as Guiying walked in, she knelt on the ground with a thud and kowtowed heavily to Luo Qingchen. "I'm sorry." She knew she was sorry for something, but she wanted to know the reason. "Give me a reason." Luo Qingchen looked at her and said, "I don't believe you did it because of personal hatred." After a long time, the candlelight in the room swayed gently, and a heavy atmosphere spread. Guiying took a deep breath and said, "It was the 8th prince. The 8th prince killed my husband and took away my daughter." "Your daughter?" Luo Qingchen was stunned and said, "You have a daughter. Your Highness the Crown Prince Consort. Help me save my daughter." Guiying's tears fell drop by drop. She grabbed Luo Qingchen's skirt and said, I beg you. Luo Qingchen knew that Guiying had her own difficulties, but she didn't expect that not only did she have a husband, she also had a daughter. "If you want me to help you save your daughter, I can promise you." Luo Qingchen shook the envelope in her hand and said, "But you have to help me deliver this letter to General Ding Sheng, who is stationed 300 li away." "Me? If you are willing to change sides and help the crown prince deal with the 8th prince, I will believe that you truly know that you are wrong, and I will do my best to save your daughter." Song Tan glanced at the letter, then quickly looked away. "I promise you." Guiying took the letter and looked at Luo Qingchen. "I'll go. No matter how far or how dangerous it is, I will go. As long as my daughter is safe, I will do anything." She had already lost her husband. She couldn't lose her daughter. The next second, Luo Qingchen nodded and said, "Song Tan, go back first. This matter has nothing to do with you. It's too dangerous." "No." Song Tan shook her head firmly and said, "Song Tan has been taking care of the 2 sisters these days. Song Tan has been appreciating it. Now Sister Guiying doesn't have the mind to deliver the letter. She still has a daughter to save. Let me go." At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on Song Tan. At this moment, he volunteered to stand up. It was a heroic performance. No, it's too dangerous." Chapter 3085. Okay. Luo Qingchen narrowed her eyes, and there was a glimmer of light between her eyebrows. "I'll leave it to you." After an hour, everyone began to carry out the plan. Murong Si went to the palace to meet the emperor, and Song Tan went to the camp 300 miles away to deliver a letter to General Dingsheng. As for Luo Qingchen, she changed into a knight's suit of the Shadow League and went to the 8th prince's mansion. It was related to the life and death of Guiying's daughter. This time, after she held a guard hostage, she directly threatened him to tell her the location of the secret prison. Behind the garden rockery, there were many guards, as if it was difficult for a fly to fly in. Space freeze. Guiying's daughter was locked in the innermost cell. A little girl was holding a steamed bun, shivering in the corner, and kept shouting, "Mother, mother!" The next second, the frozen time ended, and a guard came in with a whip. He looked at the little girl and said, "Your mother doesn't want you anymore. You've been eating this steamed bun for so many days. It seems that you're not hungry at all. If you're not hungry, why are you still calling your mother?" "I want to leave the steamed bun to my mother." "You're all bad people, a group of bad people. Pa, pa. The sound of the whip hitting the ground was heard. He walked towards the little girl step by step and said, "Don't leave it. Hurry up and finish the steam bun so that you can go on your way. Brother still wants to touch. Shio." There was the sound of a long sword being unsheathed, and it directly pierced the guard's throat. Blood instantly splashed out, and the whole secret prison was filled with the smell of blood. "Little sister, don't be afraid." Luo Qingqian squatted down and touched her head. "Sister will take you to find your mother. Okay? Okay." The girl's soft and clear voice sounded in this prison full of blood, which was particularly abrupt. But it was particularly pleasant to hear. You, who are you? Where did you come from? Are you crazy? You dare to break into the 8th Prince's secret prison." The guard retreated as he spoke, his legs trembling uncontrollably. Just now, Luo Qingqian's sword speed was too fast. It was so fast that before he could react, that person had already fallen into a pool of blood. "When I came in, I used my ability." Luo Qingqian coldly looked up. The blood on the Phoenix dance sword dripped down drop by drop. The sound was clear and audible. In the next second, her eyes emitted a burst of coldness, and her thin lips softly said, "When I go out, I will walk out like this." You're simply courting death." The guard shouted, Someone come quickly. Someone trespassed into the palace. Someone come quickly." Luo Qingqian ignored his shouts and looked down at the little girl. "Are you afraid?" "I'm not afraid." The little girl shook her head and said, "I'm holding my sister's hand. I'm not afraid at all." "Then next, Big Sister will let you watch the sensational moment of a bad person being punished and accepting death." In the dark night, she was dressed in black with a mask on her face. She held the Phoenix dance sword in her hand as she slaughtered her way from the depths of the dark prison. Blood splashed onto the little girl's white cheeks and beautiful eyes, but she didn't even blink. Her father, the father who was poor but loved her like a treasure, was killed by this group of people. So she wasn't afraid. Even if the blood splashed onto her body, she still wasn't afraid. She wanted to personally see these people being punished and receiving their retribution. Chapter 3086. At that moment, she even felt that her eyes had turned red from all the killing. It was probably because the pair of hands holding her were covered in scars, which made her feel that these people were even more deranged. If they didn't even let off a young child, then what was the point of living in this world? Since Murong Yu wasn't in the estate, the remaining people were all cowards. No one dared to block Luo Qingqian's path. She left Murong Yu's estate with the little girl and returned to the Crown Prince's eastern palace as quickly as possible. At that moment, Murong Yu wasn't in the estate because he had gone to Prime Minister Ning's residence to pay a visit. Although it was late at night, he didn't seem to be stopped at the door this time. Ning Qian had already fallen asleep from crying. The person who met him was none other than Prime Minister Ning. This prince saw what happened in the Eastern Palace with his own eyes. Murong Yu pretended to be sad and sighed. "Prime Minister Ning, I won't hide it from you. I've always admired Miss Ning, but unfortunately, she has always had feelings for His Highness the Crown Prince. I could only silently protect her. I just didn't expect that I wouldn't be able to help her when she suffered such grievances today." Murong Yu's emotional speech moved Prime Minister Ning. To him, his daughter was his everything. Ning Qian was his sky. If anyone made her suffer, he wouldn't let them off even if he had to risk his life. "Oomph." Prime Minister Ning coldly snorted. The Crown Prince's actions are too much. He can choose not to make Qianer the Crown Princess, but he can't choose that princess of Siksha country. Just the day before, he had written a complaint on behalf of his daughter, describing how unruly, willful, and condescending that princess was. But in the blink of an eye, Murong Ci had chosen her to be the crown princess. Wasn't this clearly trying to embarrass Ning Qian, and embarrass him, the prime minister? Prime Minister Ning is right. Murong Yu chimed in. "Although my authority is meager, I'm willing to do anything Prime Minister Ning wants. As long as I can help Miss Ning vent her anger, I'll do my best." Prime Minister Ning looked at Murong Yu. After a long time, he stroked his beard and said, "Eighth Prince, you must have come to find me today because you already have a countermeasure in plan. Since that's the case, Why don't you tell me about it? Since Prime Minister Ning had been an official in the imperial court for so many years and held the position of prime minister, he must have his own abilities. Although his heart ached for his daughter's death and he was burning with schemes, he knew that Murong Yu's visit tonight must have something he didn't know about. Prime Minister Ning, then this prince will speak frankly. Murong Yu bent down as a cold glint flashed through his eyes. Perhaps the world is about to change. Ning Xiang naturally heard the chill in Murong Yu's words. A trace of fear flashed through his bright and spirited eyes. He had been an official for so many years and had done many good things as well as many bad things. But he had never betrayed his own master. Prime Minister Ning, you must consider this carefully. After what Miss Ning did yesterday, she's already the crown princess. A dark glint flashed through Murong Yu's eyes. How could she possibly let Miss Ning off? Of course, she won't let go of her status as the crown princess. But what if she becomes the empress one day? Murong Yu is very smart. He had grasped the weakest spot in Prime Minister Ning's powerful heart and made his words particularly effective. Chapter 3087. Crown Prince's Eastern Palace. When Luo Qingshun brought the little girl back to the Eastern Palace, Murong Ci had already returned from the palace. She's Guiying's daughter? Murong Ci raised his right hand and patted her head. She looks a lot like her. Thank you, uncle. What's your name? The little girl nodded slightly and looked at Murong Ci with a pair of grape-like eyes. I'm Shinra. The next second, Guiying seemed to hear a familiar voice and rushed over from not far away. When she saw Shinra, she almost knelt down and burst into tears. Everything she had experienced these days was nothing but darkness. It was as if she couldn't see her fingers when she stretched out her hand. She couldn't see anything. There was no light, not even a faint light. No one could illuminate the path ahead of her. When her daughter finally returned to her side, safely, she finally felt a little bit of light in her life. And this little bit of light was brought to her by Luo Qingshun. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. After a long time, she slowly let go of Shinra. She knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Luo Qingshun. Empress, I can't repay your great kindness. In the next life, I don't need you to repay me. Luo Qingshun shook her head seriously and said, if there really is a next life, can you promise me that you'll be stronger? Look at some people clearly and cherish their own lives. In the 21st century, Guiying's fate was pitiful. If she could do it all over again, then she wouldn't have a good ending in the 21st century. Luo Qingshun didn't know if her reminder would change her fate, but she could feel that this girl's fate was very similar to the original owner's. Oh, okay. Guiying took her hand and said, right now, I just want to take care of Shinra, accompany her as she grows up, and protect her from harm. I don't want anything else. I also want you to be happy. Luo Qingshun gently patted Shinra's head and said, little sister, you have to be sensible and take good care of your mother. Okay? I know. Xian Rua's eyes were slightly red. She looked at Luo Qingshun and said, I will definitely work hard. I will work hard to become as powerful as Big Sister. When I grow up, I will punish evil and promote good like Big Sister. Good girl. Luo Qingshun smiled with relief, then looked up at Guiying and said, I have arranged a carriage for you to leave the Forbidden City. I bought a house in a place with beautiful scenery. You can go now. She could rescue them from Murong Yu's residence, but she couldn't guarantee that she could protect them at all times. Right now, whether it was her, Murong Ci, or even Murong Yu, they all knew that the Forbidden City was about to change. No one could guarantee an absolute victory. Therefore, leaving this place was the best way to ensure their safety. But Guiying seemed to have suddenly thought of something. Her brows trembled slightly as she said, Tanner is still in danger because of me. I can't. She won't be in danger. Luo Qingshun's cold eyes narrowed, and the corners of her mouth curved into a cold smile, because she is not on our side at all. 8th Prince's residence. By the time Murong Yu returned, it was already late. He already knew that Shinra had been kidnapped and that many people had died in the prison. However, he didn't care. To him, this wasn't the most important thing right now. Chapter 3088. As long as the east wind blew, the world would belong to him. So what if he let a little girl go? So what if a few people died? Greetings, Your Highness. Song Tan wore a green robe, and her long hair was combed into a flying cloud bun. Her expression was as cold as ice. You didn't succeed. Why did you come back? Murong Yu's voice carried a hint of seduction. He raised his right hand and hooked it under her chin. Could it be that you missed this prince, Your Highness? Song Tan's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and her ears turned slightly red. She pursed her lips and said, I've been by their side for so long. I finally got something. Is that true? Murong Yu's expression was very excited. The excitement in his eyes was evident as he laughed. If the information you brought is really useful, then this prince will definitely satisfy you. At this moment, Song Tan's gaze suddenly turned gentle. She took out the secret letter and handed it to Murong Yu. This letter was originally sent by Guiying, who betrayed Your Highness. I stopped it. After Murong Yu opened the letter, his eyes widened in shock. He had expected Murong Ci to abdicate the throne as soon as possible and ascend to it. However, he never expected that Murong Ci would actually try to rope in General Ding Sheng and have his troops enter the Forbidden City. Although General Ding Sheng was skilled in battle, he was addicted to alcohol and women. In his early years, he relied on his bravery to win battles on the market. However, he rarely won battles on the front lines in recent years. Thus, Emperor Mu had him stationed inside the capital. Naturally, he didn't want to be so dispirited and cowardly. Thus, if Murong Ci's letter had fallen into his hands, they would have already formed a faction. In that case, his so-called east wind would be blowing for someone else. Murong Yu closed the letter and revealed a sinister smile. Since they think General Ding Sheng is useful at this juncture, then we'll be one step ahead of them and use him for ourselves. Your Highness, General Ding Sheng's wife is from Sai Shui country, Qing Song replied. Then everything about the crown prince's plan makes sense. Why did he choose the princess of Sai Shui country to be the crown prince's consort? Why did he try to rope in General Ding Sheng? It seems he wasn't confident that Emperor Mu would pass the throne to him. So he chose a path of retreat for himself. That must be it. Murong Yu coldly snorted. While I'm meticulously planning, he's also meticulously planning. And once a net is spread out, there will be places where it overlaps. For example, they could find out that he was the one who sent Guiying, but they didn't know that there was another person besides Guiying, Song Tan. All this time, Guiying had been trying to hide Song Tan's existence. He had personally sent Guiying to Murong Ci. If something happened, Guiying would be the first to be suspected. Under such circumstances, everyone's attention would be on Guiying, and no one would notice Song Tan. Sometimes, the more deeply a person hides, the more innocent they seem. Therefore, Song Tan was confident that no one would suspect her. Wang Ye, then I will withdraw first. Song Tan bowed and said, Wang Ye also needs to rest early. She liked Murong Yu. She had liked him since the first time she met him. He was handsome, elegant, and charming. When he spoke, he was especially humorous. Ever since she was young, she had never learned the so-called zither, chess, calligraphy, or painting, but martial arts. Chapter 3089. Tan-er. In the next second, Murong Yu called out her name. His lips curved into a faint smile as he said, Don't leave tonight. She abruptly turned around. Apart from shock, there was also pleasant surprise in her eyes. It had been so long, and Murong Yu had so many women by his side. It was finally her turn. She could endure her heartache and ignore the fact that he had multiple wives. As long as she could stay by his side, everything would be worth it. Drip, 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 drip. It seemed to be drizzling outside the window as Murong Yu crudely faced Song Tan on the bed. Even if this was her first time, he didn't feel the slightest bit of pity. This was him. He only cared about his own rights. To him, women were nothing more than tools. Aside from working for him, they were only there to satisfy his desires. But for a man like him, no matter how history changed, there would always be a woman willing to sacrifice herself for him. The next morning, Song Tan's face was pale and her eyes were closed. The bed was a mess. Qing Song knocked on the door and walked in. He didn't seem surprised to see such a scene. "What's the matter?" Murong asked as he put on his clothes. "From your expression, it seems like something big has happened." Ching Song nodded and said with a heavy expression, "His Highness is seriously ill." "Your Highness, quickly enter the palace." "What?" Murong was surprised at first, but then he laughed out loud. "Ha ha, it seems like the east wind has come quickly." "Yes, Your Highness." Ching Song continued, "General Ding Sheng has decided to help Your Highness. Although his wife is from Sichuan Nation, he must have held a grudge against the Crown Prince." "Why?" "In reply to Your Highness," Ching Song explained, "back then, the Crown Prince was the one who stationed him outside the city and prevented him from leading troops into battle. That should have happened many years ago." Murong sneered. "It seems that old general is quite the vengeful one. Perhaps it's because he's holding a grudge that we're able to take advantage of this opportunity." Ching Song glanced at Song Tan on the bed and said, "Your Highness, you have to hurry. Don't worry. This prince will never be tied down by a woman." Murong shrugged. "I'll enter the palace now." It was snowing in December, and the entire Forbidden City was wailing. Luo Qingshun stood beside Murong Ci, her clear eyes carrying a faint liguang. This game within a game, a scheme within a scheme, had finally come to an end. They had fought so many times in the open and in the dark, and it was finally time for a conclusion. It was snowing outside the hall, while the imperial physician was treating Prince Mu. In order to prevent Prince Mu from catching a cold, many Wang Ye and Wang Fei waited outside and did not enter. Except for Murong, Lord Father. Murong rushed into the inner palace through the snow. Beihong's voice suddenly rang out as he knelt on the ground. "Father, why don't you open your eyes and look at your son, Father?" "Reporting to Your Highness, King Mu is currently very weak," the imperial physician said from the side. "Your Highness, please don't be too agitated. Also, make sure to close all the doors and windows to prevent Prince Mu from catching a cold again." Yes. The imperial physician's words are reasonable," Murong said as he walked towards the door. In the next second, he opened the door that the palace maid had closed. The snow instantly blew in, and the cold wind was bone-chilling. "Eighth Prince, what are you doing?" Chapter 3090. Everyone was stunned as they revealed looks of disbelief. This was the first time anyone had seen such a scene in their lifetime. Murong words clearly indicated that he wanted to rebel. "Eighth Marquis, you. The imperial physician's legs trembled, and they couldn't stand steadily as they took a step back. "Imperial physician Lin." Murong's lips curled into a sinister smile. "This medicine has its uses. Not every medicine can be used in the same way." The imperial physicians had been in the imperial court for many years. Naturally, they understood the meaning behind Murong's words. Not only did he not want to save Emperor Mu, he wanted him dead. "Your Highness, you can't do this. How can you?" Bang. The sound of fireworks rang out, causing Murong's expression to subtly change. Everything he planned had succeeded. The world was his now. "Why can't I?" Murong's cold eyes narrowed as he laughed. "Why do you think no one came in after this prince spoke for so long? Why do you think the crown prince and the other princes didn't come in?" Before the imperial physicians could respond, Murong raised his head and laughed. "Because they've already been subdued." Cough, cough, cough. Perhaps it was because Murong's laughter was too loud, but Emperor Mu's fingers twitched as he slowly opened his eyes. There was an aged look on his face. The instant he opened his eyes, they were bloodshot. Imperial Father, is that you? Have you really woken up?" Murong's eyes were filled with excitement as he walked towards Emperor Mu with wide eyes. "You shouldn't have woken up. You should have just calmly slept. What's the use of waking up? Your world is gone, and so is your Mu kingdom." "Unfilial son." Emperor Mu's voice sounded weak, but it didn't tremble. It was as if everything that had happened wasn't a surprise to him at all. It was as if all of this was within his expectations. Yes. Imperial Father, you're right." Murong sat on Emperor Mu's bed. "If you thought I was worth nurturing, you wouldn't have made Murong Ci the crown prince. Since he was a child, He had never felt that he was inferior to Murong Ci in any way. Was it just because he was the legitimate son of the Central Palace that his status was not as noble as Murong Ci's? Eighth Wangya, you can't do this. This is the Mu Wang Dash. The imperial physician knelt on the ground and said, Eighth Wangya, you can't do this. Bang. Ouch. Murong Yu kicked him forcefully, causing the imperial physician to fall to the ground. Why can't I do that? Murong Yu roared. Right now, I could do whatever I want. Unfilial son, I dare you to say that again. Emperor Mu fumed as he glared at Murong Yu. I'm listening to you say, Oh, how can you still open your eyes? Murong Yu grabbed his neck with one hand and said, Since you don't want to die, this prince will help you. Help me? In the next second, Mu Wang's expression changed. Do I need your help? Bang, 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 bang. In the blink of an eye, all the doors were opened. Murong Ci stood at the very front with a cold gaze and a faint smile on his face. Along with him were Emperor Mu's imperial guards and General Wei Yuan's 100,000 soldiers. Chapter 30-91. Impossible. How could this be? Didn't you already lose? Murong Yu felt as if all the energy in his body had been sucked out. His mind went blank. He wanted to say something, but he found that his brain couldn't express what he wanted to say. Are you talking about him? Luo Qingshun raised her right hand and threw a man who was tied up in front of Murong Yu. You have the nerve to call yourself Ding Sheng when you look like this. Didn't you already surround them? You clearly gave me a smoke signal. Murong Yu was panicking. He thought that everything he'd planned was flawless. But in reality, this was a trap within a trap within a trap. I was the one who released the smoke signal. In the next second, General Wei Yuan slowly walked in. What's wrong? General Wei Yuan had already led his troops back to the capital 7 days ago. Murong Ci's true friend wasn't the narrow-minded Ding Sheng, but Mr. Wei Yuan, who was only looking for a loss. You clearly. Murong Yu staggered back and fell to the ground. He knew that he was going to lose, but deep down, he wasn't willing to admit it. It was such a perfect plan. Everything was under his control. From Guiying to Song Tan, from Ning Qian, to Prime Minister Ning, there wasn't a single mistake. Why? Why did it end up like this? Because I suspected Song Tan. Luo Qingchun glanced to the side. You probably lost because of Song Tan. When I met for the first time, Song Tan was injured. She looked weak, and it seemed that she had deliberately led things to Ning Qian. She was the daughter of the Minister of Works, and the Minister of Works was the Prime Minister's disciple. Their relationship was closer than an outsider's. Ning Qian was indeed arrogant and despotic, but they'd only been in the Eastern Palace for 2 days. Song Tan's injuries couldn't have been caused in the Eastern Palace. Moreover, there were many people in the Eastern Palace that Ning Qian didn't like. The dancer rewarded by Emperor Mu should be the one she hated. After all, she felt that people of that status didn't even have the right to step into the Eastern Palace. However, she was only good at talking and had never really used her hands. The only person who had made a move was Guiying. Luo Qingshun didn't know the reason for her actions at first, but after many investigations and inquiries, she found out that it had something to do with Song Tan. This was one of them. As for the other, Ning Qian, and Song Tan were both daughters of noble families. If they hadn't entered the Eastern Palace at the same time to become Murong Ci's concubines, they would have never been married. Even if Song Tan's father was Prime Minister Ning's disciple, the two women still wouldn't have any interactions. Therefore, Luo Qingshun felt that Ning Qian had nothing to do with Song Tan's injuries. But that was very strange. Why did Song Tan lead them to think that her injuries were related to Ning Qian? What was she hiding under her submissive appearance? How could you possibly suspect Song Tan? Murong Yu clenched his right fist and heavily smashed it on the floor. Shouldn't you be suspecting Guiying? Guiying is too obvious. Luo Qingshun raised her eyebrows. Didn't you give Guiying to the crown prince so that we would focus on Guiying so that Song Tan could get closer to us? Chapter 30-92. Bring her in. Luo Qingshun glanced at Ning Yuan and said, Let her see the true face of the person she used her life to protect. Yes. When Songtan walked over, she was practically supported by two soldiers. She was heavily injured because she was part of the group that fought with their lives on the line. Blood soaked through her white robes as she knelt before Murongyu. With tears streaming down her face, she asked, "Your Highness, are you all right?" Slap. She heard a loud slap on her face, and the air seemed to have frozen in an instant. "It's all your fault, you idiot. Why do you have to live in this world? Why don't you just die?" Murongyu's eyes were filled with killing intent. He didn't seem to remember that he was still ravaging the woman in front of him last night. To him, she was only a tool to vent his desires. To him, she wasn't even worth mentioning. Your Highness, you." Songtan's eyes widened as she looked at him in disbelief. Her lips trembled as she said, "How could you do this to Tan? Tanner has done so much for you. She could live for him. She could die for him. But how could he say such cruel and heartless words? What have you done for me?" Murongyu staggered to his feet and kicked Songtan. His eyes emitted a vicious light as he said, "You've caused me to lose everything. You've caused me to lose everything that should have belonged to me." As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a dagger from his boot and quickly turned around. "Lord Father, you're about to die anyway. Why don't I drag you down with me?" In the blink of an eye, Murong Si and Luo Qingshun both took a step forward to protect their Lord Murong. Little did they know that their Lord Murong had jumped up from the bed like a carp. His right hand pulled out an imperial sword from the edge of the bed and pointed it at Murongyu's throat. At this moment, Murongyu's world seemed to have collapsed. It turned out that this scheme within a scheme wasn't just a showdown between him and Murong Si. He thought he had victory, but Murong Si had prestige. He thought he had Songtan, but Murong Si had Guing. He thought he had Prime Minister Ning, but Murong Si had Lord Murong. The disparity in strength was simply too great. Murongyu suddenly felt a little self-deprecating. He had always thought that he was in control of the overall situation, that he was in control of everything. But in reality, he was the pitiful one who had fallen into the trap. Unfilial son, do you really think I'm going? A cold glint flashed across King Mu's eyes. He looked at him and said, "No matter what my child did wrong, I will not kill him. Apart from rebellion." Lord Father, Murongyu immediately knelt down. "Your son was foolish. Father, please forgive this son. This son is willing to be filial to you for the rest of my life. In the future, this son will never do such a foolish thing again. This son was wrong. This son was really wrong. I made a bet with sin." King Mu closed his eyes and took in the pain in his heart. He sighed deeply and said, "If I lose, I will immediately pass my throne to him." One day ago, Murongyu entered the Forbidden City late at night, inside the Hall of Supreme Harmony. "You mean you will rebel?" King Mu said in disbelief. "How is that possible?" Chapter 3093. "And if I win, the world will still belong to you, Father. I'm only helping you kill a rebellious prince." Murong Si had never said that he would obtain the throne if he won. To him, the throne wasn't the most important thing. He had already obtained what was most important to him. However, he had to punish Murongyu. If it wasn't for Murongyu, the people on Qingxiu Mountain wouldn't have died. If it wasn't for Murongyu, Jun Yao wouldn't have appeared, and he wouldn't have been separated from her. He had already started this plan before she had even returned. It was just that her return had sped up the process. Father, Murongyu shook his head. No. Your body is still so strong. You don't need to be so quick. Crown Prince Murong Si, hear the decree. I'm here. Crown Prince Murong Si's conduct is upright, and he has the demeanor of a ruler. Today, I pass the throne to you. I hope you can continue to protect the Mu kingdom." Emperor Mu looked at the eunuch beside him. Eunuch Li, draft a new decree in a moment. Eunuch Lu kneeled. "Yes, Father. Thank you, Father. I accept the decree." Murong Si knew why Emperor Mu wanted to pass the throne to him. No matter what Murongyu had done wrong, he was still his son. Treason was a serious crime. It was impossible to keep him alive even if he wanted to. Only if he wasn't Emperor Mu would he not be the one to convict him of this crime. Emperors were heartless. and the royal family was heartless. Perhaps this statement was too one-sided. There were always some royals and emperors who had feelings. A day later, Luo Qingshun personally went to the prison with a secret decree. When Murong saw her, he rushed over like a madman. He looked coldly at her and said, "It's all your fault. It's all your fault. If it wasn't for you, how could anyone have recognized Song Tan?" Eighth Prince, isn't it a little too late to say that? Luo Qingshun shrugged. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. Who are you? Who exactly are you? She didn't give people the feeling that she was the princess of Sikshu country at all. Perhaps his plan had been seen through, but it didn't mean that he couldn't even see this. I don't know if 8th Wanya remembers that there is a peach blossom coffin in the East Palace. Luo Qingshun raised her eyes and said, "The person inside is the princess of Sai Shui country." What? Murong was stunned for a moment. He suddenly recalled that Murong Si's temperament had changed greatly because of that woman. Still, no one knew who that woman was. All they knew was that she was brought back from beneath a cliff in Mount Qingqiu. 8th Wanya may not know her, but 8th Wanya should know Junyao. Luo Qingshun's cold eyes narrowed, and the corner of her mouth curved into an extremely faint smile. In the next second, Murong Yu's expression changed. "You? How did you know about Monarch Yao?" Because Luo Qingshun paused. "I'm also a member of the Shadow League. Doesn't 8th Wanya know? Monarch demons are only ranked second in our Shadow Alliance." "You?" Murong Yu's eyes widened in disbelief. "The way I look at you says it all." Luo Qingshun pursed her lips, and her eyes emitted waves of coldness. "I'm number one. You're Luo Qingshun. Whether or not I'm Luo Qingshun is no longer important to you." She picked up the Imperial Edict and said, "What's important to you is this Imperial Edict. He wants to kill me?" Chapter 3094. Murong Yu stared blankly for a moment, his expression one of disbelief. He'd plotted a rebellion. Murong Ci was now the king. How could he let him go? "Don't lie to me." Murong Yu looked at her coldly. "I know what kind of person Murong Ci is. I know how deeply he's hidden himself. Then you should know that he won't let the matter of Qingqiu go so easily." Luo Qingshun placed the Imperial Edict on the ground. "Junyao is already dead. Do you know how he died?" News of Junyao's death had already spread like wildfire in the Jianghu 2 days ago. The people of Green Hill were all righteous people. The reason why he was able to kill so many people in Green Hill alone, aside from his martial arts prowess, was because he had been lurking in Green Hill for a long time and had tampered with their food. Even if Junyao was an outstanding assassin of Shadow League, he couldn't have escaped the pursuit of so many people in the Jianghu. His final death was simply unbearable to look at. Murong Yu picked up the Imperial Edict from the ground and laughed foolishly after reading it. The 7 moons inn at the foot of Qingqiu Mountain was where he was imprisoned. There were archers all around to prevent him from escaping. What was Murong Ci's goal? He knew very well. Luo Qingshun also knew why he was laughing. It was a self-deprecating smile. You reap what you sow. Murong Ci wanted him to be hunted down by everyone in the Jianghu. Those who died in Qingqiu Mountain were all loved ones. When the dust settled, Luo Qingshun stood outside the prison. She looked at the bright moon in the sky and, after giving a sigh, her lips curled into a faint smile. Fortunately, everything was over. Fortunately, everything had a happy ending. After Murong Ci ascended the throne, she immediately became the queen. The new king felt that the queen's name was too long, so he directly named her Luo Qingshun. She knew that Murong Ci wanted to give her an official identity, not a princess who didn't live up to her name. After everything was over, what was left was everyone's ending. After King Mu abdicated, he went to the mountain resort to enjoy the rest of his life. Although he wasn't as weak as he was when he was acting, he had been working hard all year round. He didn't fall sick, but he constantly fell sick. Murong Ci gave him the best care and agreed to all of King Mu's requests. There were some problems that could not be solved in the imperial court, but King Mu would tell him the solution. This seemed to be different from the royal family, where father and son turned against each other. But between father and son, there were times when they would get angry. For example, In Mu Wang's opinion, the foundation of the country was the continuation of descendants. He hoped that Murong Ci could take in more concubines so that the country of Mu could become stronger. However, Murong Ci firmly replied that he would only marry one queen in his life. He could use his freedom in exchange for the stability of his country, but he could only give his love to one person. The old Mu Wang could not dissuade him, so he resentfully gave up. As for Murong Yu, Murong Ci had spread Murong Yu's location throughout the Jianghu. Even if there weren't 100 people, there were at least 50 who sought him out for revenge. He could hide for a while, but he couldn't hide forever. She even lived in a world of fear every day. But there was one person who went to accompany him. She said that whether she lived or died, she was willing to stay by his side and spend it with him. That person was Song Tan. Luo Qingqian didn't expect that even after Murong Yu insulted her, she would still go to find him regardless. Chapter 30-95. Countless enemies came knocking on his door. Murong Yu used to be a prince, so his martial arts weren't high. He wasn't even as strong as Jun Yao. After being imprisoned in the 7 Moons Inn for a few days, he was already covered in wounds and on the verge of death. At first, Murong Yu thought he had a chance at survival. However, he soon realized that he didn't even have a chance. Aside from death, there was only death. When he knew his life was hanging by a thread, he burned down the 7 Moons Inn. 2 lives were devoured by the fire. Aside from Murong Yu, there was also Song Tan. After the fire was extinguished the next day, they found 2 charred corpses. Murong Ci didn't give him any title. It was as if he shouldn't have existed in this world in the first place. However, no one pitied Murong Yu because he'd done too many bad things. Everyone had to be responsible for their own actions, regardless of whether they were a prince or a commoner, or the prime minister, or the general. General Dingsheng had stopped fighting in recent years. The old Mu Emperor wanted him to be stationed outside the city and enjoy his old age on account of his contributions to the Mu Empire. However, he didn't expect him to rebel with Murong Yu. Treason was a big crime, but it wasn't worth mentioning in the face of his contributions. However, Murong Ci still remembered what he had done for him in the past and only granted him death, sparing him from the sin of implicating 9 generations of his family. As for Prime Minister Ning, he'd been an official for more than 30 years. One wrong step and he'd lost everything. Murong Ci took off his official position and sent him to the border. Everyone in the Ning family was demoted to commoners, never to take half a step into the capital. Ning Qian knelt in front of the Forbidden City and cried for a long time, but it was useless. The once arrogant and despotic young lady seemed to have aged a little after shedding her gorgeous clothes. She'd had countless choices in her life, but she'd never made good use of them. In the eyes of the world, she only had herself to blame for her ending. In Luo Qingqian's eyes, all the endings were beautiful. However, she didn't expect the power of love to be so great. Even though Murong Yu was such a scumbag, there were still people willing to sacrifice everything for him. Song Tan, Song Tan, Song Tan. In the first year of Murong Ci's ascension to the throne, there were many new positions in the palace. Whether it was the front court or the back court, there were some changes. As the empress, Luo Qingqian was supposed to be in charge of the harem, so she was very busy. However, she was the only one in her harem. Other than eating and drinking every day, there was nothing else to do. Murong Ci was especially busy. It was probably because he felt that he had let down his father in the matter of the imperial harem. Thus, he did everything by himself and was especially serious. In her spare time, Luo Qingqian liked to decorate her house and plant some flowers and herbs. As a result, there were many flowers in the imperial harem and many specially trained palace maids were recruited. The Mu flower is an extremely rare flower at the border of the Mu kingdom. It can't be exposed to the sun all year round. It needs to be watered with clear water every day, and it can't be contaminated with cold dew at night. Do you understand? Yes, Nanny Mu. When Luo Qingqian passed by the imperial garden, she happened to hear the conversation between the mama and the palace maids. She was very pleased. You seem to know a lot about flowers and plants. Luo Qingshan said with a slight smile. Was your family in this line of business before? Chapter 3096. She was wearing a dark gray palace robe. Her hair was white, and her face seemed to be disfigured after being burned. This servant greets the queen. Mumama's voice was very old and hoarse. Luo Qingshan narrowed her eyes. She looked to be around 50 or 60 years old. Her back was bent, and there were burns all over her skin. Quickly leave. Eunuchly standing at the side immediately scolded. Don't let your face scare the Wang Fei. Yes, yes, yes. Mumama hurriedly bowed and said, This servant will leave now. Luo Qingshan did not say anything else. She just nodded faintly and said, It's fine. You do what you need to do. Queen, let's go this way. Eunuchly continued to walk as he said, In fact, there are many people who study flowers like Mumama. This servant knows that the queen likes flowers and naturally learns more. This Mumama's family is rather poor, and she lost her husband a few years ago. I like to play with these flowers and plants purely out of luck. Luo Qingshan warned. There's no need to go through so much trouble. It's fine as long as someone who likes flowers and understands flowers and plants serves her. Yes, Eunuchly said, this servant will follow the queen's instructions. In the evening, Murong Si would accompany Luo Qingshan to eat no matter how busy she was. Today was no exception, but she seemed a bit absent-minded. What are you thinking about? Murong Si put a piece of white jade tofu in her bowl and said, You look listless. This afternoon, I saw an old mama in the Imperial Garden. Luo Qingshan frowned slightly and said, I feel like she looks familiar, but I can guarantee that I have never seen this face before. It was a face that was destroyed and disfigured. At least, she had never seen it before in this plane. It's just an old mama. Murong Si laughed softly and said, If you find it strange, you can just replace her. She looks very old. If her family really needs this job, it would not feel good to casually replace her. Luo Qingshan shook her head and said, Maybe I'm thinking too much. I'll have Man investigate her identity tomorrow. Since she came to the Forbidden City as the princess of Sai Shui country, Man, and Sangu had been following her. They were not her personal maids, but two close friends that she had suddenly found. Yes, Murong Si gently patted her little head and said, Don't be too nervous. It's a peaceful time now. Those bad people who bullied you are no longer in this world. Luo Qingshan also felt that she was overthinking things. She was indeed overthinking things. It was just that she often had dreams recently, so she probably didn't sleep well. The next day, Man went to investigate Nanny Moo's identity. She didn't have any strange background and was very clean. Your Highness, don't worry. Man massaged her shoulders as she said, Aunt Sang has already sent her to a place further away to do errands. Her reward and salary haven't changed. All right, Luo Qingshan nodded and said, Since she is innocent, don't make things difficult for her. I think I'm overthinking things. But was she really overthinking things? When she saw Nanny Moo in the Imperial Garden again, it was already half a year later. It was probably because he did a good job at a certain place that he was reassigned back again. Chapter 3097. The flowers were still colorful and in full bloom. But Luo Qingshan felt that these flowers were too beautiful, but she couldn't tell what the difference was. This servant greets the queen. When Nanny Moo saw her again, she seemed a bit nervous. She knelt down and bowed. Greetings to the queen. Luo Qingshan naturally recognized Nanny Moo, but she didn't ask any more questions. She just walked forward and said, The flowers have been blooming very well recently. A palace maid appeared out of nowhere and said, Reporting to the queen, this is all thanks to Nanny Moo. She really knows flowers very well. In order to let the queen see more beautiful flowers, Nanny Moo has done a lot of work. Don't talk too much in front of the queen. Nanny Moo gave her a cold look and said, This servant knows that I didn't do well before and made the queen unhappy. This servant really loves flowers and knows flowers. I hope the queen won't drive this servant away. When she said the last sentence, her voice trembled slightly. Luo Qingshan narrowed her eyes and didn't speak for a long time. In the past, she would have helped her up and let her stay in the imperial garden to take care of the flowers. But there seemed to be a voice in her heart that kept telling her, don't. Probably because Nanny Moo had been kneeling for too long, the surrounding palace maids all looked confused. They didn't know why they had to make Nanny Moo kneel, but they didn't dare to ask. Get up first. Luo Qingqian's eyes trembled slightly, and she said, Man, give Nanny Moo 100 taels of silver as a settlement fee and send her out of the palace. Hiss! Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. 100 taels of silver was definitely not a small amount for an ordinary person. How could a nanny who took care of the flowers in the imperial garden receive such a reward? This, the queen, do as I say. Luo Qingqian frowned slightly and said, I've had this feeling before. It's not a good feeling. She couldn't tell what was wrong with Nanny Moo, but when she saw her again, this feeling became even stronger. The person kneeling on the ground was stunned for a moment. Then he kowtowed and said, Thank you for your grace, Empress. She didn't refuse, which made Luo Qingqian feel relieved. Half a year had passed, yet nothing had happened. Perhaps she was overthinking things. But was that really the case? On the night that Nanny Moo was supposed to leave the palace, she disappeared. No one knew where she went, and no one could find her. It was also that night that the entire Forbidden City was drowned in a sea of fire. Luo Qingqian simply could not run from Suha Palace to the Hall of Supreme Harmony before she was surrounded by fire. Your Highness! Your Highness! There's fire everywhere. What should we do? Man, Er's voice rang in her ears. She had no time to think. She rushed to the center of the fire and teleported to Murongxi's side. At this time, he was also surrounded by fire. Qingqian, Qingqian, cough, cough, cough. Murongxi held her in his arms and said, Why are you here? I'll protect you. You go first. It's too late. Luo Qingqian shook her head and said, The entire palace is on fire. The fire is spreading too fast. There's no time to get water to put it out. Was it her? Was it Nanny Moo? How did she do it? Could it be the flowers in the imperial garden? Chapter 3098. In fact, even if they didn't have this piece of wood, it would be useless for them to leave. At this moment, the entire palace was like a huge furnace. Everywhere was burning. A person stood in the center of the imperial garden. She had taken off her palace robes and was wearing a plain white robe. She raised her head and laughed. Your Highness, oh your Highness, Tanner has finally avenged you. Back then, Song Tan didn't die. One of the people who died in the 7 moons was indeed Murongyu, but the other wasn't Song Tan. This woman came for revenge. Murongyu clutched the wound on his chest. Unfortunately, her skills weren't as good as mine. She left before I did. Your Highness, don't say anything. Song Tan rushed forward and pressed on his wound. I'll go find some medicine, fool. It's too late. He smiled and looked at Song Tan with a rare gentleness. You have to live, cough, cough, live on with my hatred. No. Song Tan shook her head frantically. I don't want to. Your Highness, I'll always be with you. Don't die. If I don't die today, I'll die tomorrow. Murongyu opened his palm and said, This is phosphorus powder. There's a type of flower on the cliff of Mount Wood. Its pollen is phosphorus powder. Junyao had told him about phosphorus powder. He'd originally planned to use this method to exterminate everyone in Qingqiu Mountain. However, he was allergic to pollen, and Qingqiu Mountain didn't have the means to transport so many flowers, so he could only give up on the idea. However, phosphorus powder was a very mystical thing. Not only could it make flowers bloom beautifully, it also had a special reaction to fire. That was burning. Junyao had wanted to use this method to burn everyone in Qingqiu Mountain, but he could only give up due to his allergy. However, Murongyu had heard about the method. This place is about to be engulfed in flames. Murongyu's blood-stained hand trembled as he took out a tongue of flame from his sleeve. Leave? I don't want to. Go. As soon as he said that, the tongue of flame fell to the ground. Even though it was just a little bit of phosphorus powder, the flames instantly soared into the sky. Even though there were no flammable items, the entire inn was engulfed in flames. Song Tan rushed forward like a madwoman and hugged Murongyu tightly. trying to protect him. The scorching flames burned her skin, but she didn't feel any pain at all. She wanted to protect him, but Murong Yu was already motionless in her arms. In the fire, she put her hand under his nose and breathed. The man in her arms was no longer breathing. Ah! She painfully screamed towards the sky, gritted her teeth, and rushed out of the inn. Then there was Nanny Moo. Her face was ruined, her voice was ruined, and her head turned white in one night. However, her heart became even stronger. Once a person had a goal that did not fear death, he would become particularly strong. In order to collect enough phosphorus powder, she almost fell off the cliff several times. In order to enter the palace, she did not hesitate to use any means. For the sake of avenging Murong Yu, she wanted the person who killed him to have a taste of being burned alive. She wanted everyone in this world to be buried with him. None of them could escape. Don't even think about running away. Those flowers that had been sprinkled with phosphorus powder were so beautiful in full bloom. But that was the beauty of someone who was about to die. She would destroy everything that Murong Yu couldn't have. The throne, power, and the Forbidden City. Chapter 3099. Ching Chun. Cough, cough. The fire drowned out everything. He bowed his head gently and hugged her tighter. Luo Qingqin's heart was a little flustered, but to a certain extent, she was very calm. She seemed to have experienced this kind of life and death separation a lot. Not every ending was a happy ending, but for some reason, there was a very unreconciled feeling in her heart. Was it Mother Moo's problem? It was her. I'm here. Luo Qingqin took a deep breath and burrowed into Murong Si's arms. There was fire and smoke around them, and he felt a slight pain in his eyes. Don't be afraid. I will protect you and let you leave safely. Murong Si seemed to be still thinking of a way. In this place full of fire, there was no way out. Luo Qingqin suddenly felt a little sad, as if there was a deep feeling in her heart. It was something she wanted to say to that person a long, long time ago. At this moment where there was no way out, she seemed to be able to say it. I don't want to leave alone. Luo Qingqin sniffed and rubbed her nose against his golden dragon robe. Do you think saving me is a kind of protection? Actually, I'm not like that. Whether it was life or death, she wanted to be with him and face it with him. After experiencing so many planes, life and death were nothing. What she was most afraid of was parting, and what she was most afraid of was leaving behind regrets. But Murong Si lowered his head slightly and looked at her tightly closed eyes. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. It was as if at this moment, his words touched the softest part of his heart. No buts. Luo Qingqin shook her head and said, I will be with you in the next world, If I say that we will meet again, would you believe me? Murong Si was stunned for a moment, and a touch of tenderness flashed through his eyes. Past life, present life, future life, when had he ever believed in such things? But at this moment, when she said it, he strongly wanted to believe it. If there was a next life, would they be as happy as this life? Why was his time in this life so short? He didn't even have time to treat her well. Everything was already over. I believe you. Murong Si raised his right hand gently, as if he was meeting her for the first time. He touched her head and said, I believe everything you say. As long as she said it, he would believe her. However, he regretted not being able to find the person who had harmed them. He regretted that his negligence had caused his beloved to die with him. In the end, he had failed to protect her. The words she had said to him before she died seemed to echo in his mind again and again. He hoped that he could meet her again. In this life, because he was the ruler of a country, there was a lot of time that he could not accompany her. If only there was an afterlife, it would be great. In the crowd, he would definitely recognize her at a glance. Then he would throw caution to the wind, regardless of whether she knew him or not. He rushed forward and hugged her tightly. The noise in the surroundings gradually quieted down. The initial feeling of difficulty in breathing seemed to have disappeared. This feeling made Luo Qingqin feel a little blurred. It was as if when she opened her eyes in the next second, she was already in the primal chaos space. But that didn't seem to be the case. Chapter 3100. Her head was a bit heavy, and even her memories and time were a bit messy. She seemed to have stayed in one place for a long time, but she didn't return to the chaotic space, but to another place. Where was this? Was this a new plane? Why was she here? This kind of S-level mission shouldn't have any hidden secrets, right? The next second, the system's voice sounded in her ears. The host guessed right. This is 3 months before the original host's death in the modern era, before the original host became Liang Yu's lover. Because the host stayed in the free world for 3 months, this is 3 months ago. Damn, was it that exciting? Luo Qingchun felt like there was a buzz in her head. If she had returned to the modern era, would Murong Ci still appear? What was her mission here? The host's mission here is the same. Obtain the mail, lead Murong Ci's 100% love. So what you mean is, Murong Ci also has another identity in this world? Yes. Luo Qingchun felt that this kind of exciting thing really made her heart nervous like never before. Then was Murong Ci's name in this world also Murong Ci? Yes. Luo Qingchun rubbed her temples and began to recall the original host's memories in the modern era. The surroundings were quite familiar. It was the original host's home. Murong Ci wasn't a big star, so he shouldn't be someone from the entertainment circle. Luo Qingchun turned on the lights in the room and tore down all the posters of the man called Murong Yu in the ancient era and Liang Yu in the modern era. Then she turned on her laptop and logged out of all the groups and fan clubs related to Liang Yu. How could this kind of man have fans? Based on the time, Guiying should be dead. And even if she was in the ancient era, Guiying wasn't in the Forbidden City, so there shouldn't be any danger. Luo Qingchun thought for a bit, then opened the search engine and typed in Murong Ci's name. Sure enough, there was information about this man. In this world, he was the president's son, 25 years old this year, and just returned from America 3 months ago. 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. Why was it always 3 months? What kind of joke was this? But no matter what, the most important thing for her now was to find evidence that Liang Yu killed Guiying. In other words, it was the letter in his drawer. When she left Liang Yu's fan group, Luo Qingchun accidentally discovered something. It turned out that Liang Yu had always had a rumored girlfriend, and this girlfriend was also considered the boss of his fan group, Song Tan. Because Luo Qingchun did not deliberately remember this aspect of memory, when he arrived in ancient times, he would only feel that the name Song Tan was familiar, but he did not take it to heart. Dee. Suddenly, a message popped up on QQ. It was from a girl named Tan Tan. Tan Tan. Qingchun, why did you leave the group? Did something happen? Luo Qingchun changed her username from Little Feather to Luo Qingchun and quickly typed a line of words in the message box. Luo Qingchun, I didn't have good taste in the past, but now I've grown up. Beep, beep. In the next second, she received another message. Tan Tan, but there's a ball this weekend. Didn't you sign up? The money here can't be refunded, and the spot will be left for someone else. Luo Qingchun suddenly remembered that there seemed to be such a thing in the original owner's memory. She thought for a bit and replied. Chapter 3101. Song Tan didn't ask Luo Qingchun any more questions. After all, it was common to lose fans these days. The ball that Song Tan mentioned on Saturday was actually a large-scale charity ball. In addition to celebrities and fans, there were also some high-ranking government officials. Luo Qingchun didn't remember if Murong Ci went to the ball, but she still had a glimmer of hope. After all, with Murong Ci's identity in this world, it was really difficult for her to get close to him. Host, you can spend 500 exchange points to obtain a piece of information. Just as she was lost in thought, the system's voice suddenly flashed in her mind. 500 exchange points to obtain a piece of information? It must be a big deal. Moreover, with her current savings, 500 exchange points was definitely not a small amount. Okay, tell me, Song Tan and Murong Yu, also known as Liang Yu, both have memories of Mu. Oh my god, can it not be so exciting? This kind of S-rank mission was a bit out of her scope. That fire brought back Song Tan and Murong Yu. In other words, Liang Yu, who had memories of Mu, should have been in this world for a long time. Everyone had the same appearance as Mu. As soon as they met, they would immediately know who the other person was. I also want to remind the host that Murong Ci was the name he used when he was studying abroad. His name in China is ECI. The royal family did have this habit. In order to avoid danger, they wouldn't use their real names when they were abroad. The scope of this event was too big. Luo Qingshan felt that she had a lot of things to do, but she didn't know where to start. When Luo Qingshan searched for EC's name on the search engine, she found that all information about him was completely blocked. She didn't know if he would attend the ball Song Tin mentioned, but as an ordinary person, it seemed that she could only give it a shot. The weekend, Luo Qingshan wore a snow-white sweater and a brown pleated skirt as she headed to this very high-class banquet. The reason why the organizers chose the celebrities by drawing lots was probably to give everyone the feeling that it was very normal and easy for celebrities to interact with passersby. Only in this way could the senior leaders, who were also here, have a better understanding of the entertainment industry. Luo Qingshan clearly felt that the moment she met Song Tan at the entrance of the banquet, Song Tan's smiling face froze in an instant. Her whole person seemed to have been hit on her acupoints, and she didn't say a word. "You are Sandalwood?" Luo Qingshan looked very calm. Although her eyebrows were heavy, there was not the slightest change in her expression. "Yes." Song Tan took a deep breath. She didn't even dare to look into Luo Qingshan's eyes. She moved her lips and said, "You are very lucky to be invited to this charity ball. You're also very lucky." Luo Qingshan crossed her arms in front of her chest, the corners of her mouth forming an extremely faint smile as she said, "If you weren't lucky, how could you be here?" She said this sentence naturally with a double meaning. She could also completely feel the expression on Song Tan's face gradually changing from panic to fear. Could it be impossible? Absolutely impossible. She came to this world by a strange combination of circumstances. Probably God thought of her infatuation and painstakingly brought her to that man again. In fact, she had been in this world for 3 months. Even if she was confused at first and didn't know where she was, now she knew very well. Chapter 3102. Luo Qingshan gently smiled, and a different look flashed through her eyes at Li Guang. The system was right. She didn't carry Song Tan's memories, but rather the person who caused them to die in the fire. She really didn't expect to be able to return to the modern world and have a sequel to this story. There seems to be a lot of people coming today. Luo Qingshan casually picked up the orange juice on her right hand and took a sip. It seems like this kind of charity event where the government, celebrities, and the common people gather will attract a lot of attention from the outside world. Actually, to a certain extent, this kind of charity ball was often held in major cities. The government and the common people hand in hand, heart to heart, and now, with the addition of celebrities, this kind of banquet was actually a kind of positive energy. And Song Tan still didn't dare to look at her eyes. She didn't even know where to put her hands. Her eyes flickered as she said, "Don't walk around. Today's charity banquet is very large. The prince will also come. You can just sit with the passers-by they've chosen." "Oh." Luo Qingshan obediently nodded and said, "Okay." After her voice fell, Song Tan strode forward and left in another direction without looking back. Luo Qingshan looked at her back and slightly narrowed her eyes. A faint killing intent flashed through her eyes. The heavens were fair. Some people still had to go through her hands and be dealt with personally. But in this society ruled by law, it seemed to be a bit difficult. Song Tan came to the celebrity dressing room as fast as she could and found Liang Yu. At this time, Liang Yu was talking and laughing with his assistant. His hands would occasionally touch the other person's body, creating an ambiguous chemical reaction around them. "Mr. Liang Yu," Song Tan wrinkled her brows. Looking at Liang Yu like this, her heart couldn't help but hurt. Even in a strange world, he was still the high and mighty national male god. He didn't even change his playboy nature. He always liked to flirt with girls and always liked to be ambiguous with girls. She felt very sad, but as long as she remembered that day at the 7 Moons Inn, the gentle look he gave her before he died, her heart would have a trace of comfort. Liang Yu wrinkled his brows impatiently, but still said to the beautiful assistant beside him, "Go out for a bit. I have something to say to the fans." "Okay." The assistant's voice was very coquettish. She used a coquettish tone and said, "Don't take too long. We have an event on stage in a bit." And got it. After her voice, the beautiful assistant arrogantly raised her head and brushed past Song Tan's body. It was as if he wanted to knock Song Tan down with a condescending aura. Did something happen? Liang Yu looked at himself in the mirror with satisfaction and said, "Or are you still not used to this world and simply want to chat with me?" It had been 3 months. He had been in this world for 3 whole months. It's a world's everyone's as they. Here as 8 Wangya S's to also S's. She S. Chapter 3103. Song Tan closed her eyes and opened them again. I don't think she recognized us. Maybe she is different from us. Are you stupid? Liang Yu said angrily. Whether she has the same memory as us or not, her existence is a needle on the road for us. Then what do you want? Song Tan closed the door and whispered, "This place is not the same as ours. Killing people seems to be a law." You're stupid. Liang Yu's cold eyes narrowed, and the corner of his mouth outlined an extremely cold smile. She is not the princess of Sai Shui country now, and there is no Murong Sai to protect her. It is absolutely easy for an ordinary person to do something to her. How do you want to do it? Song Tan's eyes trembled. She seemed to feel that what Liang Yu said was quite reasonable. There is no time like the present. There's a good way to do it without us doing it. What way? Liang Yu raised his eyebrows and said, "A person of your status might not know that today's charity gala is very grand. The reason why we invited those unrelated people is not to create an atmosphere that is close to the common people, but to sign a very important contract." Although he didn't understand many things about this world, he was already very clear about most of the interpersonal relationships. This contract was secretly signed. On the surface, it was a deal about an oil mine, but in fact, it was equivalent to a small country's deal. The reason why he knew about this secret signing was that one of his friends was a staff member who wrote the contract. A few days ago, when he was drunk, he accidentally spilled the beans. Originally, he just wanted to show off, but Liang Yu heard it. So what? Song Tan frowned. What does this have to do with killing Luo Qingchen? This contract is a big deal. Not everything in it can be seen. Liang Yu curled his lips into a smile. If Luo Qingchen accidentally learned about this and was found out, what do you think they would do? Song Tan lowered her eyes slightly, and a dark light flashed in her eyes. She was not without guilt in her heart. She had killed the girl once, and now, in another world, she wanted to kill her for the second time. As a human being, kindness was not completely obliterated. But for Liang Yu, she was willing to give up everything and gladly endured it. I understand. Song Tan nodded abruptly. What do you need me to do? I'll go make some preparations. Liang Yu's brows moved slightly as he said, I'll give you the news after that. In a room on the 30th floor of the Boston Hotel, the two parties with absolute power and status were ready to sign the contract. A young man in a black suit narrowed his eyes and looked out of the French window with his deep, ink-like eyes. The night sky reflected the melancholy in his eyes. After a long time, he said, I'm going out for a walk. Yes, my father is very interested in this matter. Don't make any mistakes. When ICI walked out of the room, she didn't forget to remind him. The man standing at the side, who was also dressed in a neat suit, said, Young master, don't worry. Everything is going well so far. The charity banquet attracted a lot of attention, so no one noticed the transaction upstairs. This deal was what the president was most concerned about at the moment. It could only succeed and not fail. The person sitting on the sofa, drafting the draft, quietly took out the phone in his pocket and sent a message to Liang Yu. Chapter 3104. Thank you very much. Leave it to me. Liang Yu. This was one of the few friends he had met in the 3 months he had been here. They had the same hobby, liking women. There was an 18th-tier star that he had taken a fancy to early on, but he had never had a chance to get in touch with her. Liang Yu promised him that he would pull strings for him so that he could sleep with that star. At the banquet, Luo Qingchen sat with a group of lucky fans who had been selected. They seemed to be very excited as they chatted while eating snacks. Luo Qingchen would occasionally say a word or two, but most of her attention was focused on Song Tan. She had just left the hall for a short time, but her face was obviously calmer when she came back. It seemed that there was only one possibility. She had found someone to discuss with and already had a way to deal with her. Hey, you know what? I really like Liang Yu. I think he is exactly the same as the Prince Charming in my dream. Me too, me too. I heard that he is very single-minded and never falls in love. Those scandals are all fake. Yes, yes, yes. And he is humble and very good to the actresses and the crew. Listening to the words of the female fans, Luo Qingxun expressed that she was quite uninterested. Could it be that all the beautiful words in this world were used on Liang Yu? But this couldn't be blamed on the fans. After all, the image of the stars in front of the big screen was bright and beautiful. It was fine for everyone to only see the beautiful side. It was just that Liang Yu really didn't have a beautiful side. All the sides that he thought were beautiful were faked by himself. Those were not the most real Liang Yu at all. Luo Qingxun reached out and touched her ear. Just as she was about to get up and go out for a walk, she was called by Song Tan. Qingxun. Song Tan came up with a smile on her face. There was no panic on her face. She looked at her and said, "Here is an important document about Liang Yu. I have to go to the front desk to arrange it. Can you help me send it to Liang Yu's room?" Luo Qingxun quickly took the document. Without hesitation, she chuckled and said, "Okay, no problem. His room number is level 30, 9610. At that moment, Luo Qingxun could feel Song Tan let out a sigh of relief. She naturally could not guess what Song Tan wanted to do, but she was sure that Song Tan had already made her move and did not intend to let her go. Just now, she was not very sure whether Song Tan and Liang Yu had met or not, but now she was very sure. They must have met before and knew that the other party had memories of Mu Country. Perhaps they thought that fate had brought them to heaven, but in fact, whether it was heaven or hell, no one knew. Ding! The elevator reached the 30th floor. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop on the floor. The air was filled with a faint fragrance. She felt a little uneasy, but also a little expectant. 9,607. 9,608. 9,609. Luo Qingxun walked along the corridor step by step and finally stopped at the door of room 9610. In the next second, just as she was about to press the doorbell, her right hand pulled forcefully. Just as she was about to jump back and counterattack, 7 or 8 men in suits and pistols appeared from all directions. Chapter 3105. They looked at each other, and there was an indescribable feeling between them. It was as if they were still talking and laughing in the palace of Mu Kingdom yesterday, and today they had traveled through time and space to another world. He was still him, and she was still her. That didn't seem to have changed, but she remembered everything, and he had forgotten it. That was all. But why did she have a particularly uncomfortable feeling in her heart? Because the way Claire looked at her was very strange, as if she was looking at an outsider. Ding! System error, system error, system error. Don't come out if you make a mistake, okay? Who is it? How dare you come here? One of the men standing behind her said, but if you can get rid of the security guard at the elevator and come here, you must have some ability. Elevator? Security guard? It seemed that the people at the elevator had been transferred away, or it turned out that Song Tan asked her to come here to get rid of her with someone else's help. There are monitors in all directions here. I don't need to tell you where the security guard at the elevator went. Luo Qingxun narrowed her eyes and put her hands in her coat pockets. You don't have to accuse me like this. The security guards looked at each other, and some of them were blocked by her words and couldn't say a word. The next second, room 9610 was opened, and the people inside probably heard the conversation outside. One of the men in his 50s glanced at Io and said, Prince, you can go in first. Leave it to us. In an instant, Io slowly let go of her wrist. From beginning to end, he didn't hold her wrist hard. When he let go, she seemed to feel his residual warmth on her wrist. Claire glanced at him and then nodded. When she passed by the 50-year-old man, she stopped for a moment. Standing in Luo Qingxun's position, she couldn't see what he said to the man, but she could feel that he glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. When the door of room 9610 was closed again, there was a gunshot from outside the corridor. It wasn't loud at all. If the room wasn't so quiet, this gunshot wouldn't have been heard at all, because all their guns were equipped with silencers. After 3 minutes, one of the security guards came in and said, "Sir, it's already been cleaned up." "All right." Xiang's son nodded and said, "There's still 5 minutes before the official signing ceremony. Check all the exits. If you make any mistakes again, don't blame me for not giving you a chance." Xiang's son was the old man in his 50s. When he finished speaking, he glanced at the staff member who was drafting the contract. He seemed to have just put his phone in his pocket. Before that, he sent a text message to Liangyu. "Everything went well. It's settled. Remember what you promised me." At the same time, Liangyu, who was in the dressing room, jumped up excitedly and shouted, "Nice!" This was his favorite word ever since he came to this world. He especially liked to use it. Song Tan, who was standing to the side, saw that he was so happy and unconsciously laughed with him. Perhaps her life was like this. Because of Liangyu, she was happy. Because of Liangyu, she was sad. Because of Liangyu, she did not care about anything, even if she had to give up her life. Chapter 3106. He was quite successful in getting someone else to do his dirty work. Recalling the time when he killed everyone in Qingqiu Mountain with the help of the Shadow League, he felt a sense of déjà vu. "I can only share this joy with you in this world." Liangyu stood up and covered the monitor with his right hand. He held Song Tan's face with his left hand and kissed her. Song Tan was stunned, a faint blush on her white cheeks. This feeling was similar to that night when she had first experienced skin-to-skin contact with him. But on the second day, their fates changed drastically. Now that they had come to this world, everything was about to change. Song Tan hugged Liangyu tightly and thought, they will be happy, definitely, at the same time in the presidential suite on the 35th floor. Luo Qingchun sat on the sofa. Her eyes were covered with a black cloth, and her hands and feet were tied with ribbons. The air was filled with a faint floral fragrance, but she couldn't tell what kind of flower it was. It seemed like there was more than one flower. Taking a few more breaths, she felt very comfortable. The reason why she came here was that an hour ago, she was brought here by a group of men in suits. It wasn't because she didn't want to resist, but because a person suddenly appeared and said to her, "Miss, please come with us." The reason why she believed that person was because he looked exactly the same as the guard beside Murong Ci in Mu Country. Ning Yuan. Luo Qingchun wasn't sure if this Ning Yuan was the same Ning Yuan in Mu Country, but since they looked the same, they must be related. Time ticked. At first, someone walked into the room, but then there was no sound of walking. Until, click, the hotel room door was opened. Someone seemed to be walking in her direction. His footsteps were neither light nor heavy, but there was a very familiar feeling. The next second, a cool fingertip touched the back of her hand. She trembled slightly and frowned. "Who is it?" In an instant, the person raised his right hand and wrapped it around the back of her head. He pulled down the cloth covering her eyes. The moment the blindfold fell to the ground, he kissed her lips. The moment Luo Qingchun opened her eyes reddened. She took a small step back, and the young man immediately held her waist. He still didn't stop kissing her deeply. "Morong," she finally found some time to catch her breath. She gently closed her eyes and called out his old name. "Yes." He seemed to be desperately trying to suppress his excitement as he replied, "I've finally waited for you." Actually, he didn't know if he would be able to wait for her, but he didn't let go of her hand from beginning to end when the palace was on fire. He firmly believed that since he could come to this world, so could she. It had been 3 months. 3 whole months he was unfamiliar with everything in this world, but he knew that he had to make sufficient preparations and wait for her to come, wait for her to appear. And Luo Qingchun pursed her lips and sniffed. "I want to cry." She didn't know what to say. People who were reunited after a life and death separation always had a feeling that there were thousands of words that needed to be said. She knew this feeling very well, so she seemed to have a lot of questions in her heart, a lot of things she wanted to ask, a lot of things she wanted to say, but at this moment, she couldn't say a word. "I'll cry later." Chapter 3107. Luo Qingchun froze for a moment. Then her attention fell on the presidential suite. The next second, she was stunned by the scene in front of her. There were flowers all around, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Each flower bloomed beautifully and looked particularly beautiful. And the most beautiful one was the heart made of red roses in the center, surrounded by white candles. "What are you doing?" She blinked gently, some expectation and some nervousness in her eyes. Murong Si hadn't been in this world for long. When did he learn these romantic ways to coax girls? "Little girl, you don't understand." Murong Si gently touched her head. "Here, this is called a proposal." "Uh-huh." Luo Qingshun touched her ear. "So are you going to kneel on one knee, take out a diamond ring from your suit, and put on my ring finger like a gentleman?" Murong Si froze for a moment, then looked at her with surprise. "How did you know? Did you come to this world a long time ago? 3 months ago?" No. Luo Qingshun shook her little head. "I just arrived yesterday. I didn't come early." Then how did you know what I was going to do?" Murong Si looked at her with a frustrated expression. "Why do you always make people feel so surprised?" Actually, she looked at Murong Si and said seriously, "I came from this world." The next second, she withdrew her serious expression and a faint smile appeared on her lips. "Because I wanted to protect you, so I went to that world." "Qingshun, you don't know how much effort I put in to get to your side." Luo Qingshun's eyebrows trembled. "At least in this life, we can't be separated." In an instant, he took out the diamond ring from his pocket and put it on her ring finger, just as she had said. "I won't leave you, and I won't be separated from you." Murong Si looked at her. Whether it's Murong Si or ECI or other identities, "I won't leave you." During these 3 months, he would often have a dream. In his dream, he seemed to have many identities, but in his world, there was always her, a girl named Luo Qingshun. No matter what she did, she would always be by his side. She nodded. Her eyes were red, but she held back her tears. Although they seemed to be an old married couple, at this moment, the proposal was real, and they were touched. "I accept your proposal." Luo Qingshun smiled faintly and said, "Why are you so anxious to propose to me? I thought you didn't have any memories of the past." When he held her wrist tightly at the door of room 9610, she really thought that he didn't remember. She had still underestimated him. This kind of person who played the pig to eat the tiger to the extreme would definitely not let her easily see through his thoughts. Some people, in that world, I can make them die a tragic death. Murong Si paused and raised his eyebrows. "In this world, I can do the same." "You knew they were coming?" Murong Si smiled and said, "At first, I wasn't sure, but when I saw Song Tan and Liang Yu walking together, I guessed it. But you didn't appear, so I was very worried. Worried that she would never appear, worried that he would never see her again." Chapter 3108. "Have you thought of a way?" Luo Qingshun blinked. "Actually, I know how to make him unable to make a comeback, but I haven't been here for long and haven't executed it yet." "No need." Murong Si looked at her. "As long as I'm here, you don't have to do anything to those dirty people." So Murong Si is still so powerful after becoming ECI. Luo Qingshun rested her chin on her right hand. "Is the scope of your investigation going?" Little girl, you really know everything." Murong Si shook his head helplessly. "It's going. I've already gotten the surveillance video of him killing her and all the testimony of the lawyer who helped him get off the hook." "Really?" Luo Qingshun's eyebrows trembled. "What method did you use to make the lawyer talk? Can he not talk?" Murong Si's deep eyes flashed with a faint light. "He doesn't even know who I am." For some reason, Luo Qingshun felt that Murong Si was like a domineering CEO at this moment. Damn handsome. The banquet started with the host's speech, and then the guests came on stage one by one. All the agreements in room 9610 had been signed, but the person who drafted the agreement was nowhere to be seen. No one knew where he went, but he might not appear again in this life. Liang Yu sat in the first row, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled into a smile. Everything had happened so smoothly. God was really good to him. He had taken care of the most troublesome person without any effort. He opened WeChat and clicked on the profile picture of the person who had done things for him and made a deal with him. Then he did a series of neat operations. More, delete, confirm. Some people's usefulness had ended, so they didn't need to stay on his friends list. After all, he didn't want to think of Luo Qingshan at all. Martha, who was sitting on the side, saw that he was in a good mood and asked, "What are you so happy about? You have a new sister. Don't you have a sister every day?" Liang Yu shook his head and smiled. "It's just that the most troublesome thing in my life ended. I feel like I've become lucky." "You are quite lucky." Martha looked at the stage and said, "In a while, the president's son will go on stage to give a speech. After the speech, there will be 5 minutes to patrol the backstage. You have to take advantage of me. If you can become friends with him, your future acting career will be smooth sailing." 5 minutes. Liang Yu revealed a confident expression and said, "5 minutes is definitely enough for me. I'm relieved to see you so confident." Martha said, "If you can become friends with him, do you think the male lead in this big IP casting? That person in the second team will definitely not be your opponent." "Sister Martha, don't worry. I've never put those people in Team 2 in my eyes. They don't deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as me." Liang Yu said with disdain, "After this party, they don't even have the qualifications to carry my shoes." Liang Yu, a certain man sitting behind, couldn't hold back and almost cursed it out loud. The manager next to him hurriedly stopped him. He purposely said it so loudly so that the actors behind him, who were from the same company but from different groups, could hear him. For some reason, Liang Yu felt incomparably carefree at this moment. Chapter 3109. Liang Yu raised his hands and applauded in a relaxed and joyful manner. But in the next second, when he saw ECI, he seemed to have been struck by lightning, and the applause stopped abruptly. ECI was wearing a white suit, and his chestnut hair was particularly dazzling under the light. But what frightened Liang Yu was not his dazzling hair, but his face. His face was exactly the same as Murong Si's, and even his identity was exactly the same. When he was in Mu, he was a prince. In this world, he was a prince. "What's wrong?" Martha, his agent, saw his face turn pale and asked doubtfully, "Do you know the prince?" Impossible." Liang Yu's lips were thin, and he took a deep breath. "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Why? Why was this happening? Was he Murong Si? Or was it just that they looked a little alike? It must be that they looked a little alike. After all, he even got rid of Luo Qingshan, didn't he?" Liang Yu took out his phone again with trembling hands and opened WeChat, trying to add that person back. But no matter how he sent the message, the other party did not respond. The next second, he dialed his number directly, but the voice on the other end of the phone was, "The number you dialed is turned off. Please try again later." Damn it, Liang Yu roared, but found that he could do nothing at all. The feeling of helplessness rushed to his heart in an instant. He turned around, eager to find someone who could resonate with him. But he found that the person's face was paler than paper, and his eyes were wide open with an expression of disbelief. "Thank you for your attention to charity and those children who were born without a superior family." ECI finished her speech and said, "But this world is not black and white. There are some gray areas that you don't know." In an instant, EC's eyes fell on Liang Yu, and there was a faint smile on her lips. "Mr. Liang Yu, please watch the next video carefully." Liang Yu swallowed his saliva and didn't even dare breathe. He even had a hunch that he was going to be finished, but the moment the video appeared, he still felt his heart thumping wildly. That videotape wasn't it destroyed by the original owner of this body long ago? Why? Why was it still here? The discussions around him came into his ears again and again, and they were all words he didn't want to hear. God, that female, celebrity Guiying, was actually killed by Liang Yu. Could it be a traffic accident? No, it obviously doesn't look like a traffic accident. It looks like it was deliberately hit. How could this be a traffic accident? It was definitely intentional, okay? Sakura, that wasn't the news report when she died. It's not me. Liang Yu suddenly stood up and roared. "It's really not me. It's the original man, the original owner of this body." Even CI, who was standing on the stage, could understand every word he said, but no one else. Chapter 3110. In the next second, the big screen gradually dimmed. Other than the sound, there was no other image. I'm Liang Yu's lawyer. I have to bear the main responsibility for this entire matter. Liang Yu gave me $3 million to defend him and create an alibi. I'm willing to turn myself in and bear all the responsibility. I also have to apologize to that girl called Guiying. You've lost your innocence and can't even die in peace. As for Liang Yu, you're on your own. The lawyer didn't say much, but everything was clear and every word was a gem. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on Liang Yu. He opened his mouth wide, wanting to say something or defend himself, but he couldn't say a word. This feeling was like a mute eating cactus. The taste was unbearable. Liang Yu's mind was blank at this moment. It wasn't because he didn't want to think of a way, but because he knew he was finished. Overnight, Weibo fell. The keyboard warriors who attacked Guiying on the internet didn't dare to come out again. They used to say extremely vicious things about the dead, thinking that they didn't have to take any responsibility, but the heavens saw it. It wasn't that they didn't want to take revenge, but that the time wasn't right. Luo Qingchun looked at the comments online. Liang Yu's persona had completely collapsed. Other than a few die-hard fans who were still trying to clear her name, everyone else was attacking her. Winter Rose, what a disgusting man. Pay. Qing I'm Guiying's good friend. Back then, I felt that her death was very strange, but the keyboard warriors on the internet didn't even let the dead off. Little fairy, Liang Yu, get out of the entertainment industry, okay? Sword drawing youth. This isn't as simple as getting out of the entertainment industry. The law won't let him off. Among all the comments, only one was inclined towards Liang Yu, and it continuously flooded the screen. Song Mumu. Liang Yu is definitely not that kind of person. Song Mumu. Don't wrongly accuse him. If you want to hurt someone, hurt me. Don't hurt him. Song Mumu. You don't understand. You don't understand anything. Why do you have to say that he? Luo Qingchun naturally knew who this person called Song Mumu knew, but she knew that she couldn't be that Mama Mu who could turn the tide. She wouldn't have a chance here. Or it could be said that she wouldn't give her any chance. 3 days later, ECI announced her marriage with Luo Qingchun. Everyone in the country knew about it, including Liang Yu and Song Tan. Liang Yu, who was locked up in the detention center that day, laughed maniacally when he heard the news. No one knew what he was laughing about. Some said that he was crazy, while others said that he was pretending to be crazy. In fact, he might really be crazy. Song Tan had been waiting for him at the door of the detention center. She wanted to at least bail him out and not let him suffer before the court hearing. Unfortunately, in front of ECI, no one was qualified to bail Liang Yu out. No one was allowed to. A month later, Liang Yu did not sentence him to death. Instead, he was executed immediately. And when Song Tan finally saw Liang Yu, she did another crazy thing. But this time, the scales of fortune were not on her side. In the presidential suite of the Westin Hotel, a man in a black jumpsuit walked toward the room with a knife hidden in his sleeve. With a getting sound, the moment Luo Qingchun opened the door, she wildly attacked like she was crazy. Chapter 3111. Song Tan, do you think you can still succeed? Luo Qingchun's cold eyes narrowed. Do you think I will give you a chance to hurt him? Luo Qingchun's voice was very cold, as if there was a layer of frost around her when she opened her mouth. Ha. Song Tan laughed twice. How do you know I can't? She had worked hard to get here, and this place was about to be submerged in a sea of fire. Luo Qingchun responded coldly. Can you? In an instant, there was a huge explosion at the end of the corridor, and the fire spread instantly, completely unstoppable. The next second, Song Tan stood up shakily, leaning against the wall of the corridor. Do you think I can? She still succeeded, didn't she? This place still exploded, didn't it? Everything was still under her control, wasn't it? You seem to be very powerful. Luo Qingchun's mouth raised a faint sneer. In fact, I have always wanted to know why you love Liang Yu so much. Such deep love should have nothing to do with appearance. After all, Song Tan had paid far more than her life could bear. How can shallow people like you understand? Song Tan closed her eyes, holding her chest. He saved my life. It seems that we can't leave. Luo Qingchun shrugged. Tell me your story. Look at your fearless appearance. He is not in the room. Song Tan's eyebrows moved slightly, and she sneered, "It doesn't matter. Anyway, if you die, he must be very painful. What's the use of two people dying? Only one of them dying is the most exciting, the most exciting." Pain was always left to the remaining person, as if Liang Yu died, only she would be in pain. So she had to accompany him, like before, use all means, no matter the cost, to make those who hurt him die with him. He is not here. Luo Qingshun leaned against the wall opposite her. "I won't let you hurt him, but you can't leave." Song Tan looked at the raging flames around her and smiled. "You two are one. Hurting you or hurting him is the same. But you're different from Liang Yu." Luo Qingshun raised her eyebrows and spoke the truth. "He doesn't love you." "I know, but that is not important." Song Tan shook her head. "I love him, and that is enough." She used to be such a weak person. When she went to the palace for the first time, she was bullied by many noble young ladies. At that time, the man called Murong Yu had stepped forward to protect her. The belt that he had left behind had always been hidden in her most precious box. It was a secret hidden in her heart, a secret that no one could know. "Since you don't want to say it, I'll say it for you." Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and said, "On the second day of the 8th lunar month, do you think that the person who reached out to help you in the royal garden was Murong Yu?" There was one thing that Song Tin definitely did not know. When she was in the Mu Kingdom, she had sent people to investigate everything about Song Tan. Her personal servant girl had mentioned this matter. Although the process was not very detailed, at least she knew why Song Tan had treated Murong Yu with no regard for her own safety. But whether it was when she was young or now, she didn't think Murong Yu would do such a thing. His nature was bad, so there must be a problem. That year, Murong Yu was only 8 years old, and Murong Ci was only 9. Chapter 31:12. Because it was a major event, it was recorded in the palace that Murong Yu was punished that day. The reason was unknown, but he was grounded for 3 months. Due to her strong curiosity, Luo Qingshun asked Murong Ci about Murong Yu's punishment. It turned out that Murong Yu wanted the position of crown prince too much. When he saw Murong Ci's golden court robes, he couldn't resist the desire in his heart and wore his clothes when he was changing. Murong Ci had no choice but to wear Murong Yu's clothes and go through the imperial garden to Taiha Palace. At that time, he saw Song Tan being bullied on the ground and saved her. Because his clothes were too big, he lost his belt. Because it was the crown prince's day, many daughters of courtiers who had never entered the palace before also entered. They had never seen the crown prince's appearance before, so they could only determine who the person was based on the accessories on his clothes. So at that time, everyone thought that the person was Murong Yu. No one thought it was Murong Ci. So this is the truth. Luo Qingshun told Song Tan everything. As the fire approached their corridor bit by bit, she told her everything. In fact, Song Tan's heart was pounding. At that moment, Song Tan was deeply in love with the person she loved deeply. Perhaps he had been wrong from the very beginning, and he had been terribly wrong. "What did you say?" Song Tan's entire body was trembling. She stared at Luo Qingshun with wide eyes and said, "Impossible, absolutely impossible. Do you think I need to lie to you at this time?" Luo Qingshun shrugged and said, "Song Tan, we're no longer in Mu country. You won't have the chance to personally investigate the truth. It's up to you whether to believe it or not." "I don't believe it," she roared. "I don't believe it. I don't believe a single word. I believe you know what kind of man Murong Yu is better than me." Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes and said, "Is he a hero who saves a damsel in distress?" In his eyes, women are nothing but tools to be used. At that moment, Song Tan felt as if she had lost all her strength. She couldn't even stand properly. Did she really love the wrong person from the start? How? How ridiculous! She worked so hard to walk towards the light that suddenly shone in her life. However, the ending told her that she had deviated from the light from the very beginning. And she, for the sake of the man who wasn't even a ray of light, risked her life to harm the ray of light that truly belonged to her. Really? Is it really not Murong Yu? Tears trickled down from Song Tan's eyes. That was despair. That was regret. That was an indescribably complex emotion. Luo Qingchen looked at her and said decisively, "No." "So he knows? You know that it's because of this that I... He won't know." Luo Qingchen's eyes trembled slightly. She sighed softly. If it weren't for the records of important events in the palace, Murong Ci would probably never remember this matter. After a long time, Song Tan closed her eyes and said, "This is really good." At least she didn't taint that light. At least all the unbearable things were left to her alone. "But you're going to be buried with me." Song Tan nodded with a smile. "I've let you down in this life." Chapter 31:13. Teleport. The moment Song Tan charged into the fire, she screamed in shock, but she had already disappeared into the sea of flames. Then there was an explosion, and all the dust fell to the ground. Perhaps if Song Tan hadn't met Murong Yu, she would have been as kind as she appeared. She would have had a husband who loved her, and she would have lived a peaceful and happy life as a housewife. Luo Qingchen stood at the bottom of the hotel. She patted the dust off her body and put down her hat. ECI stood in front of the hotel, her face expressionless. Her slender fingertips were trembling slightly. "Young master," the security guard said they saw young madam enter the hotel half an hour ago, and she hasn't come out. Ning Yuan couldn't finish his sentence. He knew how important Luo Qingchen was to him. After all, he had followed him from one world to another. Naturally, he knew better than anyone else. "No, I believe him." ECI felt her voice tremble, but he believed her. Both of them knew that Song Tan had sneaked into the hotel. He wanted to catch her like a turtle in a jar, but she requested for everyone to be evacuated. He didn't expect her to go to the hotel by herself. Why, young master, Ning Yuan?" "Yes." He seemed to be unable to hold back his anxiety. He put on a fireproof jacket and said, "Stay here and guard her. I'll go in and pick her up." "Young master, you can't." Ning Yuan immediately stopped him. "Your identity? You can't. I'm your master." ECI frowned. "I'm worried." "Young master, let go." Ning Yuan frowned and could only let go. But in the next second, EC's wrist was still caught. "I told you to let go." The moment he turned around, he saw the face that he couldn't forget and loved deeply. "Why I go back and die?" Luo Qingchen took his hand and said, "I could be the #1 assassin in the Shadow League." ECI let out a long sigh and said, "It's good that you're back." He held her hand tightly and kept telling himself that he would never let go of her again. Beside the hotel was a promenade. They walked along the promenade and chatted. "Song Tan is dead." Luo Qingchen glanced sideways and said, "Perhaps this is a relief for her." "Yes," ECI said with a melancholy expression. "Did you tell her what happened in the Imperial Garden?" "Yeah." Luo Qingchen nodded. "Whether she lives or dies, I want her to know that Murong Yu isn't worthy of her love. That kind of man didn't deserve anyone's love. His death was the best respect in the world. I thought you would save her after you told her." Claire held her hand tightly in her palm and said, "She killed us once. I'm afraid you'll be soft-hearted." "I won't be soft-hearted." Luo Qingchen pursed her lips and chuckled, "but it's not entirely because she caused us to die once." Song Tan was a very stubborn person. Her stubbornness was so deep that it had become a kind of sickness. "Then what's the reason? Do you really want to know?" Luo Qingchen tilted her head and said, "I'm afraid you'll think I'm a bad person if you know. It doesn't matter to me whether you're a good person or a bad person." "Then I'll tell you." "Uh-huh." A second later, Luo Qingchen cleared her throat and said, "I don't want to have another love rival, so I won't be soft-hearted towards Song Tan. Look at your expression. You seem to be very melancholy." "No." ECI shook his head seriously, a faint smile on his lips. "I'm just thinking that my madam is worthy of being the #1 assassin in the Shadow League." Chapter 31:14. First meeting, parting, and meeting again. You were at the starting point, but I circled around you. Murong Ci afraid of no return, afraid of empty joy, afraid that the one who comes is not you. You see, when I was very young, I had a dream. In the dream, I was dressed strangely. It didn't seem like court dress, but it was a very nice dress. The men there all had short hair and looked even more handsome. The dream was very real, although I didn't know why I had such a dream. a girl would appear in my dream. She was very beautiful, holding my hand and standing beside me, until I met someone, the most important person in my life. In the underworld, she was the #1 assassin of the Shadow League. As long as she received a mission, whether it was a great hero robbing the rich to help the poor or a heinous villain, she would use all her strength to complete the mission. I personally went to the Shadow League and asked her to kill me, but I didn't expect that she didn't recognize me at all. Was this the so-called #1 assassin? At the time, I couldn't help but feel that she wasn't cold and heartless at all. Instead, she was a little girl who needed protection. She thought that I was the chef of the Eastern Palace, so I took advantage of the situation and became the chef of the Eastern Palace. I told her that Murong was at Qingqiu Mountain and asked her to accompany me. At the time, I didn't know why I did it, but an unknown desire ignited in my heart. Perhaps it was the so-called love at first sight. We spent time together on the way, and her personality gave me a new understanding of the word assassin. I felt that she wasn't like an assassin, but more like a naughty little girl. I wanted to take her with me to Qingqiu Mountain, but I didn't expect to be besieged at the 7 Moons Inn. In the past, when I was close to women, my body would always be unusually cold. The folk doctor said that it was a symptom of allergy, but when I was close to her, my body reacted differently. It wouldn't become cold, but would instead become extremely hot. Therefore, I felt that she was special to me. So in order to hide my identity, I drugged her wine to make her sleep. Then I took her and killed my way out of the 7 Moons Inn. Perhaps many people don't understand why I hid my identity. Perhaps it was because I was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger by her side, which made me feel especially happy. Or perhaps he was happy every second of the time he spent with her. However, those happy days were short-lived. Green Hill was destroyed, a monarch appeared, and she went missing. The entire Jianghu and the Imperial Palace were in a state of panic. As for me, I searched for a long time at the bottom of Green Hill's cliff, and all I found was a corpse. A disfigured corpse wearing the same clothes as her was lying in a pool of blood. Actually, I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe it at all. I kept telling myself that it wasn't her. It definitely wasn't her. However, reality slapped me in the face. The truth that I didn't want to believe was right in front of me. What should I do? No one knows my current confusion and despair. The only thing that can keep me alive is revenge. None of the people who harmed her should even think about living in this world. Junyao, Morongyu, I've set up a trap, a very big one that's enough to topple Morongyu. Chapter 31:15. I understood my father's personality. Emperor Mu was a ruler who loved his own flesh and blood very much. No matter what the prince did wrong, he could scold him severely, or ground him, or even make him suffer a little and receive some punishment. However, he would never kill them. In the end, the prince was still a prince, his child. In Emperor Mu's eyes, murder and arson were all forgivable things. Apart from treason, only by plotting a rebellion could one truly catch a person in one fell swoop. Morongyu only wanted to prevent me from becoming the crown prince, or perhaps he wanted to kill me. He didn't know how to kill me, how to put me to death. As for me, I was very clear. My plan was very careful. Every step was very careful, because I knew that if I took a wrong step, I would lose everything. He was also very smart. When he gave me Guing, he wanted me to focus on Guing, causing me to overlook Song Tan's existence. I seemed to have almost fallen for his trick. But at that moment she appeared. She used a new identity, and her face was exactly the same as before. In the years that followed, whenever I thought about it, I could still feel the excitement I felt at that banquet. Her voice was very pleasant to hear. Her songs were very pleasant to hear, and the way she looked at me with her veil was very, very beautiful. It was as if the heavens had given me a particularly wonderful gift, allowing her to suddenly appear in my life once more. In that instant, I felt as if my world had exploded with a bang, and dazzling fireworks lit up. There were certain tacit understandings that no one could understand unless they felt it with their hearts. We glanced at each other and knew what the other wanted to do. Moreover, we both knew how to resolve the matter in one fell swoop. Murong thought that he had the upper hand in the situation and used Song Tan to get close to our core position. But what he didn't know was that while he could use Song Tan to gather information, we could also use Song Tan to push the situation to its climax. Being too smart for your own good was probably a perfect example of Murong Yu. In the end, he couldn't hold himself back and decided to rebel. Naturally, the outcome was very different from what he imagined. He didn't wear the imperial robe, nor did he ascend to the throne. He didn't obtain anything. Nothing at all. I made a bet with my father, he lost, and I naturally inherited his empire. I didn't kill Murong Yu. Instead, I confined him to the 7 Moons Inn. There were rules in Jianghu. A life for a life, that was how it should be. Monarch Fei thought that he could surpass Luo Qingxin's position and become the Shadow League's #1 assassin by wiping out everyone in Green Hill Mountain. However, he didn't expect that some things would move in the opposite direction when pushed to the extreme. Killing 1 or 2 people in the world of martial artists might make the people in the world of martial artists remember you. But if you went too far, you would only get more and more enemies. Having killed so many righteous people of Green Hill, he would definitely be pursued by an endless stream of enemies. The final outcome was obvious. As for me, why didn't I just kill Murong Yu? Why did I confine him instead? Because I don't want him to die so easily. Because I know that waiting for death is the most painful. I made him wait, but I didn't let him die. He probably knew that I was torturing him. However, he also had an obsession in his heart. Thus, even in such a situation, he still wanted to live. Unfortunately, those people from the Jianghu did not intend to let him go. Chapter 31:16. The only thing I didn't expect was that one of the 2 corpses wasn't Song Tan. Song Tan didn't die. Instead, she came to the palace. Her hair turned white overnight. She destroyed her appearance, her voice, and everything else, all for the sake of revenge. It was my fault. I didn't protect her well enough. In the fire, when I hugged her tightly, I could feel her slight trembling and the reluctance in her voice. I wanted to save her. I wanted to let her live at all costs. I even thought of using my mind to carry her away from the sea of fire. But she told me not to leave her alone. She was no longer afraid of being separated in life or death. She was afraid of being left alone. She was alone. I will always remember the last words I said in her ear in that fire. If there really is a next life, please remember me. Because I will definitely remember her. I will never forget her. Perhaps it was because I was too stubborn when I died, but my so-called soul actually brought me to another world. That world wasn't that unfamiliar to me, because I had dreamed of it when I was young. My status was still noble, and I had rights that others didn't have. A few days after I woke up, I wondered if she would also come to this world if I came to it. I treated that trace of fluke as an eternal obsession in this life. I waited. I kept waiting for her to appear. But it wasn't her. It was Murong Yu. Or perhaps, in that world, I should call him Liang Yu. Although I didn't talk to him, I was almost 100% sure that the person was Murong Yu. That feeling was very strong. I didn't think I was mistaken. But when I sent people to investigate him, I discovered that there was a girl by his side called Song Tan. The exact same song, the exact same tan, and the exact same appearance. I was certain that the 2 of them had also come to this world and found each other. From that day on, I sent more people to look for her. I even exposed my face on the television. I wanted her to see me, because only from the top could she see me at a glance. But for a long time, my efforts didn't receive any response. Until 3 months later, I was in a daze at the end of the hotel corridor. Suddenly, I felt my back stiffen. It was a very familiar feeling. I turned around and saw her standing in front of room 9610. At that moment, no one knew the tremors in my heart. I took a deep breath and walked to her side. Then I held her wrist. Her eyes were still so clear, so beautiful, so thought-provoking. As expected, the joy of separation couldn't be replaced by any other emotion. She and I were the same. The rest of the story seemed to go smoothly. We've dealt with Liang Yu once again. This time, it was even smoother than when we were in Mu country. Perhaps Liang Yu himself was to blame for this, because he was still not a good person in this world, and had even done bad things like killing people. This place was different from Mu country. As long as you killed a person, you would be punished by the law. Was he brought it on himself? On the day he died, Song Tan wanted to go to the hotel to find us for revenge, but she stopped me. Even now, I don't know how she left the burning hotel. Perhaps it was her charm, the unstoppable Luo Qing Chun that made people captivated. Chapter 31:17. What happened next? When everything was finished and the dust settled, Murong Ci used EC's identity to officially marry her as his legal wife. They had the same status and the same high status. In any case, modern life was more suitable for her, but it didn't mean it was more suitable for ECI. One day, Luo Qingchun was leaning against the sofa with a tablet computer. ECI walked in and took a look, then said, if such a business existed in ancient times, there would be a lot of assassinations. Luo Qingchun blinked in confusion and asked why. Because in the past, people had to work hard to see the real face of the emperor, but now it's different. Anyone can send things to the emperor's door. Such an opportunity is so rare that it gives the assassins a chance to take advantage of it. Luo Qingchun frowned slightly. She felt there was something wrong with what ECI said, but she couldn't tell what it was. Qingchun, do you think I'm right? Maybe it makes sense, so I don't think it's good. ECI shook her head and said, this kind of thing must not exist. I'll propose a proposal next month. Don't. Luo Qingchun touched her ears and explained, if the people here want to assassinate, they won't choose close combat. Because, Luo Qingchun said in a daze, they all chose to snipe from a distance, so the range should be over 700 yards. Is it very far? Luo Qingchun thought for a moment and said, it's about 5 times the farthest distance you can shoot an arrow. ECI was stunned and said, then it's very dangerous here. Here. Luo Qingchun didn't know how to explain and hug him directly. No matter how dangerous it is, I will protect you. ECI hugged her back and said with a beautiful smile, it's me who should protect you. Prince's wife. Prince's wife is not a good name. Prince's wife? This was their daily life, and they lived a happy life. The following is a summary of the data for this mission. Please read it carefully. Name, Luo Qingchun Plain Space. The number 1 assassin. The Abstinent Prince's Guide. Mission completion rate. 100%. There are currently 5 items in the express storage. April 5th Exquisite Ring. 9-section Moon Whip. Phoenix Dance Sword. Universal Medicine Box. Permanent ability. Space-Time Freeze Level 6. Permanent ability. Teleport LVL 5. Upgrade. Permanent ability. Telekinesis Level 1 Exchange Points. 5,500. 500 deducted. Base points. 40. Host. The 47th mission panel is below. In the next second, the image in the bronze mirror changed. Mission rating. Experience gained. 500. Female lead. Luo Qingchun male lead. Lu Lingye supporting female lead. Li Xiaoyo supporting male lead 1. He Jingshuan supporting male lead 2. Lan Che mission details. 1. Return to the time before the original owner died and obtain the love of the male lead. 2. Protect the male lead and prevent him from being bullied. Luo Qingchun looked at the bronze panel and couldn't help but feel that this mission was a bit special, because this was the first time she saw the names of the 2 supporting male leads appear on the panel. The second mission is to protect the male lead. Is our male lead's little brother particularly weak in this plane? It's not particularly weak. He has the height and the appearance. What does that mean? Luo Qingchun was a little puzzled. Since it wasn't physical weakness, why did they have to protect him? Chapter 31:18. Host, please sit tight and prepare to receive the memory. The memory flowed into her brain, but she was already numb to the feeling. She only felt a little dizzy. During the process of receiving the memory, Lu Qingchun thought, the system is right. This is indeed a kind person. In fact, the male lead, Lu Lingye, gave her a feeling that he was a Mary Sue, but not exactly a Mary Sue. He was nice to everyone, but that didn't mean that everyone was nice to him. Lu Lingye was a C-list actor in Xing Chen's management company. He was good-looking and very hardworking. His father was the CEO of an international company. Not only did he have status, but he also had a certain amount of power. Under normal circumstances, Lu Lingye would inherit his father's company. However, Lu Lingye felt that the path of being an actor was more suitable for him. However, the entertainment industry was complex. Not all good people had good endings. Lu Lingye was the same. He wasn't an A-list celebrity, but because of his good looks, he still had a lot of fans. However, the relationship between fans and idols had always been delicate. Many things couldn't last long just based on a word like. In the entertainment industry, the work was the most important. However, it was almost impossible for a fresh meat who had just debuted to act in a famous director's movie. However, Lu Lingye worked harder than anyone else. In the second year of his debut, he had the opportunity to act in a fantasy drama, God of Light. God of Light was a popular IP created by an online author, Origami. After Lu Lingye got the opportunity, he studied the script very seriously. He wanted to perfectly portray the male lead, Qian Chenghuang. However, there were always some people in the world who were jealous. If they didn't have something that others didn't have, they would try their best to destroy it. Of course, it would be best if they had the chance to be promoted. The supporting male lead, He Jingxian, was one of them. He and Lu Lingye were in different management companies. They were competitors, so it was normal for them to dislike each other. However, using despicable means to seek their own interests was the style of a villain. When He Jingxian found out that Lu Lingye was the male lead of God of Light, he was very unhappy. He bribed the paparazzi to follow Lu Lingye. He deliberately took some photos from special angles and posted them on the internet to distort the facts. To put it simply, the beginning of the game was just a picture, and the rest of the game was completely made up. However, Lu Lingye was still caught in a storm of public opinion. Due to the pressure from the internet, the male lead of Light God was replaced. This had happened many times in the past, so Lu Lingye could only grit her teeth and endure it. After all, without evidence, everything was just empty talk. But it was different this time. This was his first time being the male lead in a TV drama, and it was his favorite fantasy drama. Lu Lingye's manager was a good woman who often helped Lu Lingye obtain more resources. Even though it was no longer possible for Lu Lingye to film God of Light, she still did not give up. Before the male lead was confirmed, she repeatedly approached the director, hoping that the director would give Lu Lingye another chance. Unfortunately, there was no such opportunity. If you think that the original owner is that manager, then you're wrong. Original host Shi was merely Lu Lingye's assistant. Chapter 3119. The host was a member of the High IQ Club and was a math genius. The reason why she became Lu Lingye's assistant was that it was a task given to her by her family. The host was born in a very mysterious family and owned the most luxurious villa in a city. However, she was not a member of the noble circle. Although the host family was very mysterious, they were especially good to Lu Lingye. Her father could become the CEO of an international company because of the help of the host family. According to the memory, the host family was not from this planet. Because the energy T changed when they passed through the wormhole, they fell to Planet A. When the host family came to Planet A, their energy T changed, causing all their abilities to disappear, and they could not return to Planet B through the wormhole. The energy T changed in Lu Lingye's villa, so the host family was very good to Lu Lingye. In order to find out where the energy T was, the host became Lu Lingye's assistant. Logically speaking, the original owner of the body had done her best as an assistant, but Lu Lingye was really a big idiot. Even if he knew that the entertainment industry was very complicated, he never went against his own choice. It was because of this that he was not very smooth and kind and was targeted by many people. After the role of the male lead of Light God was snatched away, Lu Lingye was reduced to the second male lead. Although he did not feel good, since he had decided to act, no matter what role he played, he had to play it well. But it did not mean that no one would deal with him if he compromised. The bronze panel showed that the other male lead, Lan Che, and Lu Lingye were in the same agency and belonged to the same company. Usually, they looked like good friends and brothers, but in fact, Lan Che's thoughts were more serious than He Jingxian's. He Jingxian was a B-list movie star, but Lan Che was not even a B-list star. But compared to He Jingxian, Lan Che's hatred for Lu Lingye was deeper. Because at that time, they participated in a talent show together, and Lan Che lost to Lu Lingye by only 1 vote. And this difference of 1 vote completely changed his and Lu Lingye's lives. Although Lu Lingye did not become an A-list star, he was not bad compared to Lan Che. On the surface, he and Lu Lingye were good friends, but in secret, he did a lot of dirty things. Lu Lingye's lack of popularity had a lot to do with Lan Che. After finding out that Lu Lingye had become the supporting male lead in Light God, Lan Che asked him out for a drink. After that, he spiked the drink and took him to a nightclub. Then, he took a photo and called a matchmaker. The next day, Lu Lingye made the headlines. Actress Lu Ling went to a nightclub late at night to have fun. Corruption, the second male lead in God of Light, Lu Lingye, is actually such a man. It wasn't just the entertainment headlines. Even the public opinion on Weibo was one-sided. Lu Lingye, who had never been an A-lister to begin with, had no chance of joining the entertainment industry after this incident. The original owner felt indignant for Lu Lingye and went to look for Lan Che. Perhaps because he was too anxious and drove too fast, he got into a car accident on the highway and died on the spot. When Lu Lingye found out about this, she felt extremely guilty. Chapter 31:20. In fact, there were many small details in this story, but because it had nothing to do with the original owner, Luo Qingchun received relatively few memories. Logically speaking, this Lu Lingye was really hard to explain. Luo Qingchun returned at the same time as Light God. Although the director didn't explicitly let He Jingxian film it, but she felt that it was 90% certain. Although it wasn't a good time, she could only return here. This was because this was the first day the original owner became Lu Lingye's assistant. His previous assistant betrayed him and deliberately declined a very important role, which was quite hateful. The original owner took his position and became Lu Lingye's assistant. "Miss, you're here. Miss, you're here." Because she was so focused when receiving the memories, she didn't know she was sitting in a taxi. The driver called her many times before she reacted. "It's a total of 53 yuan. Thank you." After getting out of the car, the driver didn't forget to say, "Little girl, if you have something on your mind, don't take a rough ride. It's very dangerous." Luo Qingchun thought in her heart, the people in this world are really unpredictable. Standing in front of Lu Lingye's villa, she pressed the doorbell. Ding dong. "Hello." Lu Lingye's voice came from the door. She had to admit that his voice was really nice. There was a touch of elegance in his gentleness. It was as if he could turn people into S characters. "Hello, Mr. Lu. I'm your new assistant. Sister Lee asked me to report." "Oh, okay." Lu Lingye immediately said, "I'll open the door for you. The front yard is a little dark, so be careful when you come in." If the story was told according to the original owner's storyline, the original owner would say, "It's fine, I still have some things to do, so I won't go in. I'll go to the company tomorrow, but I just happened to pass by and say hello to the new boss." But the storyline had to be changed. If she didn't change it, it wouldn't be Luo Qingchun's life. "Okay." Luo Qingchun chuckled and said, "Boss, I'll come in." It was a simple and modern building style. The house was very big, and there was no one else except Lu Lingye. "Come in." Lu Lingye was wearing a white casual short-sleeved shirt. He seemed to have just taken a shower. His chestnut hair was a little less, but he still looked very good. Luo Qingchun stood in front of Lu Lingye and could clearly see his face from this angle. The Photoshop skin was really good to the extreme, as if it was a flawless face. It was more like a peerless work of art carved out of the best jade by the heavens. His eyebrows moved slightly, emitting a dazzling light. "Are you Qingchun?" Lu Lingye saw that she was a little stunned. She raised her right hand and waved it in front of her eyes. "Do you want water or juice?" "Juice," Luo Qingchun said with an embarrassed smile. "Did I forget myself just now?" Jingxian, Jingxian. Lu Lingye walked to the kitchen, took out a glass of juice from the fridge, and handed it to her. "Don't be shy. I'm the only one at home." Jingxian, Jingshuan's Jingxian, Lu Jingxian, Jingsuan Jingxian. Jingxian to Lu Jingxian Lu. Jingxian Lu Jingxian. He didn't even have a nanny or a maid. Yes, Lu Lingye shrugged. I'm used to it. Chapter 31:21. No wonder. No wonder the original host was willing to throw away her ex-life for such a person. Did the original host like him? What about him? How much favorability did he have towards the original host? Suddenly, there was an inexplicable feeling in her heart. The male lead's favorability towards the original host is 0%. The system seemed to sense her disappointment and sadness and gave her a notification about the favorability. Really? Not even a single favorability? Host, please note that this is an S-level mission. Favorability can only be earned by the host. Oh, Luo Qingxun coldly responded in her heart, but she felt much better inside. It seemed that Lu Lingye was a really good person. Whether it was to his colleagues, friends, or even his assistant, he was so good. Lu Lingye saw her standing there in a daze and hurriedly explained, "Don't worry, your job is just to be my assistant in business, not S people's personal assistant." No. Luo Qingxun hurriedly shook her head and explained, "I thought that celebrities had a lot of people waiting on them. I didn't think that they were no different from ordinary people." And there's a difference. Lu Lingye smiled. "We don't have the freedom that ordinary people have." Luo Qingxun actually understood Lu Lingye very well. After all, she was also someone who had experienced the world of the entertainment industry. No matter where they went, there could be paparazzi following them. They had to be very careful with what they said and did. Otherwise, someone would expand it infinitely. "I understand." Luo Qingxun nodded and said, "But boss won't be so depressed. If boss wants to go somewhere, I'm especially good at helping people disguise themselves." Okay. Lu Lingye's lips curled up slightly, but there shouldn't be much time in the near future. God of Light is about to start filming. When the time comes, you'll have to join the cast with me. According to her memory, before God of Light started filming, Lan Che would find Lu Lingye and make him fall into the door of pleasure, making him completely disappear from the entertainment industry. "Okay, boss." Luo Qingxun nodded and said, "We'll probably be joining the cast on number J. Boss, I'll go back and prepare." 3 days later, Lu Lingye looked at her awkwardly and said, "It's indeed a little rushed for you, but if you have something important to do and can't join the crew, you can join later. I can check the schedule first." Lu Lingye's eyes and voice were very serious, giving people the impression that he was a very serious young man. If it weren't for the fact that he would have to spend a lot of time on set, he wouldn't have bothered to bring an assistant with him. "Of course, I'm ready to report today." Luo Qingxun pursed her lips and smiled. "Boss, don't worry. Everything will go smoothly. This movie is already not going well. Even if it's just the second male lead, I'll try my best to act." Lu Lingye looked at her and said, "At least, I can't let the company down, and I can't let Sisterly down." In fact, this kind of last-minute replacement was not uncommon in the entertainment industry. It was unfair for Lu Lingye to be demoted from the first male lead to the second male lead. It was reasonable for him to refuse the role of the second male lead. However, the investment in this movie was huge. If the box office was high, Qingxun would also get a lot of returns. Sisterly originally wanted to help him turn it down, but he finally decided to act resolutely. Chapter 31:22. You're flattering the boss so soon. Lu Lingye raised a very faint smile and said, "I've already sent the work matters to your email. Don't worry, take your time to read it." "Thank you, boss." Luo Qingxun pursed her lips and said, "Boss, are you so good to everyone? There's no such thing as good or bad." Lu Lingye revealed a very indifferent expression and said, "It's just a matter of character." Ah, Luo Qingxun pretended to suddenly understand and said, "So now it's so late. If I ask the boss to send me back, will the boss agree?" She didn't know why, but in the face of such a gentle and amiable little brother, Luo Qingxun always had a feeling of wanting to tease him. Little did she know that Lu Lingye directly picked up the coat on the sofa and looked at her and said, "I was going to send you back. It's not good for a girl's child to be outside like this." "Okay." Luo Qingxun made a yay gesture and said, "Thank you, boss." Sitting in Lu Lingye's car, Although on the surface Luo Qingshun looked innocent and naive, but when she looked out of the window, her eyes instantly became serious. There was not much time. Lan Che would soon make a small move. She had to stay by Lu Lingye's side as much as possible to prevent the villain from taking advantage of the situation. God of Light was about to start shooting. Her time in this world was indeed a bit rushed. But perhaps it could be said that it was just right. Lu Lingye stopped 100 meters away from her house. After all, the original owner's family was not from this world. Some things were not fully understood. It was better not to touch them easily. After all, they were not ordinary people. Even her identity was in danger of being exposed in front of the original owner's family. My house is in front, boss. You don't need to send me back. Luo Qingshun smiled gently and said, see you tomorrow. Good. Lu Lingye politely and gentlemanly nodded and said, rest early. Luo Qingshun looked at his car in the silent night. The corners of her mouth raised a faint smile. Having a boss who was so good-looking that he was gentle and gentlemanly was one of the greatest blessings in life. On the way back, Lu Lingye unconsciously turned on the music. He didn't know why, but he felt that he was in a particularly good mood. He didn't know why, but this assistant, he was very satisfied. He was extremely satisfied, as though he had swept away the haze in his heart from being replaced. He had never seen that woman before, but the moment he saw her, he felt a sense of déjà vu. It was wonderful, but it wasn't just a simple moment of love at first sight. Lu Lingye didn't know what she was feeling. If she had to describe it, she probably couldn't wait to see him again. The moment he stood in front of the villa, a system notification sounded in his mind. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 10%. It seemed that he had left a good impression on the boss. After all, she had left a deep impression on Lu Lingye even though they had only met briefly. Even if it wasn't deep, it was probably because he would unconsciously miss her when he was alone. This kind of first meeting seemed not bad. Just when Luo Qingshun was enjoying the moment, the door of the villa was opened. Why are you back so late today? The one who opened the door was the original owner's brother, Luo Qingmu. He had gray hair, a tall figure, and a handsome face. Chapter 31:23. Cough cough. Luo Qingshun cleared her throat and replied according to the original owner's tone. Dad didn't ask me to get close to Lu Lingye. Today is my first day as an assistant. Luo Qingmu sized her up and looked at her suspiciously. Why do I feel like you're acting weird today? His girl hadn't changed at all. Even her usual tone of voice was exactly the same. However, he felt that something was off. Luo Qingshun was smart enough to see the suspicion in Luo Qingmu's eyes. She shrugged and smiled. Brother looks like he's in a good mood today. Did Sister Shanmei give you sweets? Don't spout nonsense. Luo Qingmu covered her mouth as usual and said, she just agreed to watch a movie with me. Oh, Luo Qingshun exclaimed, congratulations. Chun Shanmei was also a woman living in the villa, but she was the only one who was not from their family. She was the pilot of the spaceship and was a very outstanding woman on Planet B. Luo Qingmu had liked Chun Shanmei a lot when they were on Planet B, but it was a pity that they had no feelings for each other. Chun Shanmei did not have any feelings for him. The person she liked was the prince with the strongest superpower on Planet B. However, this man died during a space flight. His soul bracelet was found in the wormhole, and all his life signals disappeared. Other than Chun Shanmei, there were 6 other people living in the villa. The original owner's parents, her brother, and her uncle and aunt. What are you congratulating me for? Luo Qingmu leaned against the wall and sighed. There's nothing going on yet. Then work hard to make it happen. Luo Qingshun patted Luo Qingmu's shoulder lightly and said, work hard. I'm going to sleep. Luo Qingshun. Luo Qingshun. What else? Dad told me to tell you that he wants you to be the female lead for his new artistic photo shoot. Luo Qingmu looked at her and said, we've finished all our scenes. You're the only one left. I know. Luo Qingshun waved her hand helplessly and said, let's talk about it tomorrow when I come back from the company. Luo Qingshun vaguely remembered that the original owner had lost a bet with her father, Luo Jio, and agreed to be the female lead. Since they had been on this boring planet for a long time, on the original Planet B, they were just a small studio. Her father was the director, her mother was the scriptwriter, her uncle was the cameraman, her aunt was the logistics, and her brother was the male lead. As for the female lead, the original owner had never participated in her parents' boring filming. Most of the time, it was only the male lead. Sometimes, Chen Shanmei would make a cameo as the female lead. Whenever Chen Shanmei acted as the female lead, Luo Qingmu would always beg Wang Fong, his mother, to write more scenes where the male and female lead would interact with each other. However, every time, he was decisively rejected by Wang Fong. In her eyes, the script she wrote was not allowed to be tarnished. Although this was entertainment for their daily, boring life, the self-made short photo shoots uploaded by Luo Jiao on Weibo were well received. After all, it was a low-cost production. Everyone did not have high expectations for this kind of artistic photo shoot that was close to life. Instead, some short photo shoots were very suitable for modern young people's lives and received tens of thousands of reposts.